Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Someone's Gotta Do It. In today's episode, I sit down with Callum Townsend. Callum was a really cool guy and a really likeable character. He's now a performance coach for athletes focused on endurance sports, so like long distance running and triathlons, in a business that he set up himself. Before setting up the business, he's done a plethora of other jobs, including training as a Royal Marine, amongst other things like being a firefighter and all kinds of stuff. Callum's story was absolutely crazy, and it took him a long time to get to where he is today. Like I say, he's a really, really likable character, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, the episode is sponsored by Two Puts. There's a link in the bio, and if you want to purchase any of the products like the one you see behind me, you can use discount code SGDI. Please enjoy the episode. Let's get into it. Welcome, Callum.
Hello. How you doing?
Good, mate. Thanks for doing this.
No worries.
I'm going to go straight in. First question. If somebody you know really well, so somebody who knows you the best, was going to describe you to a stranger, complete stranger, someone you'd never met, what do you think they say?
I'm trying to think of what someone would actually say. Like, I'd say people would probably describe me in two different ways. Some people would say I'm the best bloke you've ever met, and then the other people would say that I'm the worst bloke they've ever met. And it just depends on how they've treated me. Depends on the way that I would then come across to them. That way, I would say that I'm stubborn, very stubborn. So someone would probably, like someone that knows me very well, would say that I'm very stubborn. Don't like to be told no, ever, really. And I would do everything in my power to make them change their mind and tell me yes. And yeah, I'd say I'd probably get described the most. It's like the description would be that you can hear me before you see me. I'm very loud and I speak a lot. And if I'm in a room, you would probably hear me before you'll see me. That's what I would say.
What about on the other side? Yeah,
so I'd say like I can just be ruthless, mate, and like I don't mean that in like a cocky way, but if I feel that I've been done wrong, I will always. It's almost like innocent until proven guilty. I would always treat someone with the most amount of respect possible, and if that doesn't get reciprocated, then I've definitely got an immature streak in me that just does not allow for that to continue without them knowing that I know that they're doing that. So if someone's disrespecting me, then I will try and tenfold that disrespect back and just make sure that someone knows that, I know that you're disrespecting me and I don't agree with it because, I'm just a very principled guy. So like I say, I'll always do, everyone's got the benefit of the doubt. But the second that the standards slip and it's something that I think that I wouldn't do to somebody else, then I just immediately, I've got a very cold streak in me where I can just cut people off and it doesn't really serve. I'd say it serves me well in some ways, but it's definitely something that I probably have to work on moving forward, especially in business and things like that, because like I say, I've got a very good judge of character. But when it's wrong and I get it wrong, I get mad at myself and I get mad at the individual and I just don't like, getting that wrong. And the sort of consequence of that in my own mind can be quite negative because, I think it doesn't matter what the context is of someone's life, we all have our own hardships that are individual to one another. And regardless of how hard that is for you and how hard my life is for me and whatever, if we're entering into a situation where, we're conversing with each other, we're choosing to be acquaintances, then all that gets parked. Just have respect for one another. Do you know what I mean? And I think that it probably sounds a little bit harsh, a little bit deep, like early on, but I just think that people in general lack standards, like just in life. I think that, I don't know why. I don't know if it's the way of the world or if things have moved. That saying, hard times make hard men make soft times make soft men, and it goes on and on and on. I feel like we're in a bit of a dip at the minute where soft times have created soft people. And I think that showcases in business, in friendships, in relationships. Like you just find that people, I think anyway, maybe that is jaded by my own experiences, but I just think in general, and this is speaking as someone who's 27 years old, I'm not an old head, but I do find that people that I deal with on a majority basis tend to have pretty soft standards. And yeah, I will make that known. If I think that someone is acting a certain way, I will make it known. I always speak my mind. So yeah, that's that. To be fair, like rolling it back to the initial question, that is probably how majority of people, positive or negative, would describe me, is that I speak my mind, and I find it hard not to.
I think even that description is not that negative though.
Nah, it's not. It's not negative, but obviously to someone who doesn't want a mirror holding up to them, it will be super negative because I'm the one that they'll hold responsible for showcasing something that they don't like about themselves, and they won't admit that. They'll say it's because I'm a prick that I've said what I've said, but it's not. And I would never ever. I'm not a malicious character ever. Never have been to anyone in my life, and I can say that, you know, wholeheartedly. So if someone is perceiving what I'm saying or what I'm doing as malicious, that's probably because of their own insecurity, I would say. So yeah, it's probably not that negative. I'm not a bad guy. You know what I mean? I don't do bad things. So I'm again relaying it back to my own standards. I don't like it that anyone would have anything negative to say about me, but I also appreciate that not everyone likes you. And not everyone likes the way that you go about things. And like I just said, then if you're gonna speak your mind all the time, and it's something that my dad taught me from a very young age, like, because he's the exact same, he's worse than me, which is why I am the way that I am, definitely. And I've seen him go through it, and that's why I can recognize it in myself and my own relationships and friendships and whatever. That yeah, you're not gonna get met with positivity from every individual if you're gonna be a transparent person who says what they think. Every workplace I've ever been in, it's been like that. Like I'll be stood there in a room with 15, 20 people, and I know everyone's thinking the same thing about what the boss is saying. And you're like, why are you not saying anything? Why is no one saying anything here? Stupid this, I'm not doing this. But I'll say that. Do you know what I mean? And
everyone's egging you on to say
yeah. Yeah, well, or they'll sit there with a completely like sheepish look on their face, knowing I'm going to say something, and then I'll say it, and they'll go, yeah, that's right, yeah. You're like, hold on a minute. But then as soon as like the consequence comes back though, they'll all go quiet again, and it's me that gets it on the head. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, mate, like the amount of times that you'd have workroom conversations, you know, like where everyone's going, oh, I don't like this and I don't like this, and they need to change this about, and this policy's bollocks, and you're like, yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, I agree with you, completely agree. What are we going to do about it then? We'll tell them. Should we tell them? Yeah, we'll tell them then. Right, happy days. So then, you know, the conversation comes, I start it.
Everyone stands back.
What the hell? Where's our backup gone? Yeah, it actually happened once in the fire service. There was I can't remember exactly what the situation was, but so we used to, it might have been something like this, right? And I can't remember exactly, you know, how it panned out, but in the fire service, you wash the fire engines. It would differ depending on what watch you were on, what boss you had, etc., etc. But the majority of the time, if you had a boss that, you know, had decent standards and whatever else, then you would wash the fire engines off in the morning. So you had, at Blackburn Fire Station, you had 3 appliances. One of them like would never move, so very rarely, which was the command unit, and then the other 2, you would majority of the time wash both of them off at 8 in the morning. 7:30 before the oncoming watch would come on, you'd wash them off. So it was a full team effort. So the entire watch, like anywhere between 8 and 12 people, would have buckets and water and brushes and sponges, and you'd wash the entire fire engine, right?
Every day
at 7:30, and then every day at about like 5:30 before the next watch
seems
would come on.
Pointless, no?
Yeah, so some stations would do it, and some stations that you'd get detached to. So like if you went to Preston, for instance, for argument's sake, I'm not dropping Preston in, but if it was Preston, you'd go there and they'd be like, nah, it's not that dirty, we won't wash them. So common sense would get applied. No, it's not dirty, you don't wash it. But then at some stations, it didn't matter whether you might not have even turned a wheel, right? And turned a wheel, you haven't even left station, yeah? So it can't be dirty. It was washed. It stayed in its bay indoors all day, yeah? And not moved, but then you'd wash it again, right? So it happened a few times, and like the more it would happen, I think this is just like, I feel like someone's taking the piss out of us. I feel like there's someone somewhere watching us going, they're doing it again. They're actually washing this fire engine again when it's not moved. Like that's the way that I was thinking. I'm thinking this has to be a joke. So anyway, I started like saying to people like, why are we doing this though? It's pointless. Like we'd be better off doing some training or sitting in a lecture theatre or something and doing something that's positive towards the role of the job, not studying mindlessly washing a fire engine. Some of them got washed that much. They went from red to pink. They turned a different colour because they got
that's
orange.
what I mean. It just seems pointless to wash it twice a day.
ridiculous. And like I say, some bosses that had common sense wouldn't do it, but then others would have a stipulation that, like, well, it's what we do. It's what we do. And we've always done it. So we're doing it. And anyway, back to the sort of anecdote, it happened once where like I'd like sort of riled everyone up saying like, yeah, I don't think we should be doing it. I don't think we should be doing it. And then I think this one day, so like it was always dictated by someone on the watch would say, oh, we're washing off. And I think this one day, because we'd had a few conversations, we just didn't, right? And we get called into the watch room and the boss is like, what's going on here? Why have we not washed off? And I think it might have been me that was duty man that had said like, oh, we're not going to wash off, right? So I'd made the call, the executive call as a firefighter, as a junior firefighter, right? We're not doing this. So well above my post as standard. And then like we've got called into room. I think it was me who was getting it on the head because obviously like it was me who had sort of made the call. Like, yeah, I don't think we should be doing this. So like we're not doing it. So anyway, I'm arguing the toss. Like, yeah, I still stand by it. I don't think we should be doing it every single day. And everyone else is just sat there either like on a laptop or on the phone or something like that. I'm thinking everyone else thinks the same thing. What's going on? So I remember actually saying, I can't remember who it was. Someone got it from me. I just went, you had this conversation with me. You tell him what you think. It's not just me that thinks this. I think they just went, yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, right, okay, no worries. And it happened so many times, mate. So many times. Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it?
Man, it's so annoying. The way I always lead on from that is, what do you think's happened in your life and in your upbringing and everything? So we'll go back to the start now. So family life and schooling and everything to get you to a point where you think people would describe you in that way.
So I referenced it a little bit, and it's probably it's a combination of my mum and my dad, and them two only, really, I would say. So I grew up. Initially, before we moved, we lived in Fenner-Scholes in Blackburn, and I went to Fenner-Scholes Primary. And when we were 4, my dad, who was a sales engineer in the like aerospace sort of sector, my mum was a nurse, and or is still a nurse, and my dad got a job opportunity out in Australia, so we moved out to Australia when I was 4, and we were there for maybe, I think, about 5 years, and then moved back for about 18 months, went back to the same school, same, like different houses. It was always different houses every time we would move, but it was back to the same school and whatever else. Then we went back to Australia again, stayed there for another few years, and then we came back again when I was 15. So we were constantly moving, really. Well, it seemed constant. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe like when I say it retrospectively, we probably moved like 4 times in total between the same two places. It was always Sydney in Australia that we'd go back to, but and in and around the same area as well, like Kellyville and Castle Hill, the Hills District it was called. But it was always different houses. Like I say, we rented a few times, and then we bought a house eventually that we ended up staying in for quite a while. But because we were moving so much, the only sort of constants in my life, my constants weren't my friends, they weren't the football teams I was in, they weren't the sports teams, like nothing that I had from everything felt temporary from a sort of external perspective. The only constants I had were my parents and my little sister. And yeah, like I say, my mum is someone who, just very powerful in her own right. And if she wants to say something, she'll say it. She's a hell of a lot more sensitive than my dad. And I get that sensitivity off my mum. I'm very sensitive as well. And again, that probably, it's like a perfect storm when you mix my dad's sort of like audacity with my mum's sensitivity. It just turns me into someone who just reacts at things, you know what I mean, all the time, and will say whatever, whenever, because I feel it and I say it. And feeling it's probably my mum, and then saying it's my dad. So, and my little sister's been brought up to be the exact same, really, in a bit of a different way because she's a girl, but and obviously, like, so she went to high school over here, whereas I went to high school in both countries, but I did majority of my high school in Australia. So obviously, like, there's been different sort of contexts to both of our lives, but she, again, in her own right, has been brought up to be someone that is just, argumentative and stubborn and says what she thinks. And so then, like, mate, honestly, so I think we moved out, myself and my wife, Cam, we've been together since we were like 15. So when I came back third time, when we came back the third time, which is the one that has been indefinite and we're still here, I met Cam within a few months of being back here. We're actually in the same reception class, me and Cam. Yeah, back in the day. And then we ended up moving in. My family bought the house 2 doors down from hers. So then obviously we met via that, and we had a lot of mutual friends and whatever. And she'd actually commented on an Instagram picture when I was in Australia. And then when I came back to England, I was like, oh, I can get with that girl. I'll give her a message because she fancied me. Anyway, it turned out that I think it was like, it might have been her and all of the mates were sort of egging her on to do it, or it was someone else on her account sort of thing. It wasn't even as deep as I thought it was, but I thought, she proper fancies me, mate. I'm going to get in there. So anyway, yeah. But I lost track of what I was saying there. So, yeah.
So we're just talking about your schooling, doing half your schooling in, you did your high school in Australia.
Oh yeah, So I was gonna say that, I was saying that my sister is just as much of a sort of fiery force as the rest of us, and I was saying that me and Cam moved out when we were 21. I think we bought a house in Bamber Bridge. No idea why it was Bamber Bridge, like absolutely no idea. We just needed to get out the house because we were spending a lot of time at my parents' house, and we were just like, because I was obviously 21. My mum and dad obviously were mum and dad, and I think Millie was getting to, like, she must have been about 17 or 18 because that's the age gap. And all of us living in the same house, mate, it was a nightmare, like absolute nightmare. The best thing I ever did was move out because it just made all our relationships good again. But we went from like being, sort of like, we always used to argue, but we're all best mates. Like, we all got on. We just hated each other at the same time. But then that hatred just started growing and growing and festering. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to kill someone. I'm actually going to kill one of these people. Like, definitely. I remember texting Cam one day saying, like, I need to move out. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but I need to buy a house because otherwise I'm going to get in trouble because me and my dad are going to kill each other. I used to have it. It's a 3-bed semi. It's a really nice house. But it's like the upstairs especially is relatively small, and my mum and dad won't like me saying that, but it is like, it's a typical like just 3-bed semi-detached house, you know what I mean, in England. And the sort of where we'd grown up in Australia, like some of our mates' houses were like multi-million-dollar houses that were absolutely huge, mate. Like, just picture like American houses, right? They're massive. And the house that we moved out of, so the ones we rented were huge, all had pools in the backyard. Like, they were just ridiculous houses. And it was sort of just standard for Australia, like standard for Sydney. It's just the sort of lifestyle out there. So even the smallest house on the street is massive. So I've grown up in these houses, and then I've come back to a 3-bed semi, which is a really nice house, like for England's sort of standards, but they just are small. Like, I've got a 4-bed detached now, and it's still small. Like, it's a small house compared to if you were to go to America or Australia, what you would get for the money. Do you know what I mean? It's just a different way. But obviously, because I'd been exposed to that, we're living in this, like, the upstairs, it had 1 bathroom. And again, we'd come from like me and my sister had like our own walk-in bathrooms. Like, they were just like the best like bathrooms ever. And then we've gone to like me waking up at 6 a.m. because my dad's like gozzing in the sink behind me. Like, there's a thin wall behind me, and he's in the bathroom at 6 in the morning getting ready for work. I'm like, oh my God, mate, I can't do this. So yeah, like we moved out relatively soon after that. And yeah, but in answer to the question, sort of rounding that up, like the way that I have become is, I always say I'm different to my parents, and they'll both say that, and they say that there's things in me that they don't know how, I've become who I have or whatever. But I know in my own mind, intrinsically, the things that have been the sort of biggest pushing factors to me becoming who I am from a personality perspective, definitely with my mum and my dad, definitely. Whether that's even, just the perception of what they were when I was growing up, doesn't matter if they even were like that, but what I saw of it and what I took from it was definitely what has made me into, yeah, like my dad is the gobbiest bloke in the world. It's just made me into a really gobby guy. And then my mum, yeah, just being ultra sensitive has then made me ultra sensitive. So I've tried to sort of, like, and we've all had conversations about this, but I've tried as best as possible to like refine it and help it, like make it work for me, because I saw them sort of like, them characters or characteristics didn't serve them well in a lot of scenarios. My dad has had more jobs than anyone that I know, right? And it was just because he'd fall out with people. He wouldn't like a scenario, again, like similar to what we were talking about before. He wouldn't like it. He'd either call it out and sort of make a dick of himself in a workplace, or he'd just get the shits himself and go, do you know, I'm not standing for that, I'm leaving. And he's a very clever guy, very ambitious, knew his job better than anyone did. So therefore he had job opportunities left, right and center. He could go wherever he wanted, do whatever he wanted. And that, again, probably made him a little bit more dismissive of people because he knew that he could just go and get it somewhere else. So he'd stay somewhere for 2 years, and then it'd be 3 years, and then it'd be 2 years, and he just, honestly, I promise you, I could not tell you the names of the places that he's worked at because he's been at that many places over his life.
Is that why there was a move to Australia and England as well?
Yeah, very likely. So like he would, a lot of the time he'd just get headhunted. He'd get a different opportunity, and then, grass is greener. I think it'd be a better situation. Sometimes he may return back to the same workplace because he went and it wasn't as good, and then he'd go back to the other one. But the moves, to be fair, weren't necessarily because of dad falling out with people or anything like that. It was more so like my mum and my dad changing their mind just for whatever reason. The catalyst for it when we moved back the first time was we got burgled, right? And it's so ironic because we've moved from England to have a better life in Australia, and they'd had the best life ever over here, had loads of mates, and like were really well liked and had good jobs and made good money and whatever. And then they moved to Australia, and within a few years of like, we were renting this huge house in I think it was called Cateye Creek, it was called, and it was a lovely house. Can't remember if I had a pool or not, but it was, anyway, it was just a really nice house, big backyard, whatever, like, again, typical sort of Australian or Sydney sort of Hills District house. And my nana and granddad were over. My nana and granddad, mum and dad were at work, and my nana and granddad had taken us out to the movies. I think they'd either taken me and my little sister, or they'd just taken me. I can't really remember if Millie was there or not. It was my little sister, but nana and granddad taken us out for to the movies. We've come back, we've walked in the front door, and granddad's gone upstairs. And my nana has gone out the back. She used to smoke, so she's gone out the back for a cigarette. And my granddad's gone upstairs, right? And it was a big house, so like whenever he was yelling, or if someone was yelling, you couldn't really hear it. And he was a joker, my granddad. He used to take the piss constantly. And he's going, "We've been robbed, in his northern accent. I'm thinking, shut up. I think he's taking the piss. Like, and I've looked out the back door, right, and we had these like, sort of like sliding doors, these glass sliding doors. One of them's been smashed through. My nana is that ditzy that she's stepped out of it. She's not tried to open the door. She's just stepped out of this, and she's just stood there having a cigarette. Like, oh my God, we have been robbed. Like, the back door smashed in. So then I've gone upstairs, and they'd nicked everything, mate. Like, it had been my birthday recently. They'd even gone into like my little plastic wallet. There must have been about 10 or like 9 or 10 or something. They'd nicked like $200 out of my wallet that I'd been given from all my family. And my mum's either wedding ring or engagement ring got stolen, like, or both. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, when my mum and dad have come home, I just remember my mum being distraught. And that was the sort of catalyst, I think, for moving back, because they just thought, like, this horrible thing has just happened, this trauma, and we don't have our family to like lean on. And what are we doing here? And, it probably just like threw the minds a little bit. So yeah, we moved back that time, and then they realised it was a rash decision, and then moved back again after about 18 months. So yeah, and then the last time we moved back was more so because it's a long story, but it's not that interesting. We came back on holiday. I think we'd done America, and then we'd come back like to England for a little bit before going back home again. And my little sister, the thing is, with a lot of people move out to Australia, don't they? It's becoming more and more popular now than it was then. And what I always say to people is, you can be in the sunshine, you can be in paradise, but if you don't have your family, right? If someone's got family roots, if someone's, doesn't have family roots, and everyone's gone, and, unfortunately they live a life without family, then yeah, go to Australia. It's sunny. And if you're miserable here, you'll probably be better off being miserable in the sun, right? Like, it probably will be better for you. But if you've got your family and your friends and your roots in a country, moving a lot of the time is only ever going to be temporary, because you're always going to get drawn back to them roots. It just is the case. And that was what happened with us, really. We loved our life in Australia, but my mum and dad, so my sister, when we came back, she stayed with our auntie and she really enjoyed being with the family. She'd never had it before. She'd only ever had us four. And because she'd been, with them for like a week, and she'd spent time with her cousins and her grandparents and everyone, or multiple aunties and everyone that was there, our cousins, she's then not stopped going on about it when we've got back to Australia. And I think that just threw a bit of a spanner in the works for mum and dad, where they just thought, what are we doing here? Like, why have we like ragged her away from something that she absolutely loves? You know what I mean? Because a lot of the time, kids, man, like, they don't really know where they are, like, but they know about family. Like, they know whether they've got love around them. So yeah, like, that's what brought us back the last time. And then, yeah, we've never never looked back really. My dad still bitches and moans about coming back because he was happy out there. But he does love it back here, mate. And he's got all his mates and everything are over here. So yeah, he's definitely not worse off for it. But yeah, when he's had a beer and it's sunny outside, he thinks, I could be doing this every day. I'm like, yeah, all right, go and do it then.
So last week was hell then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Nah, because that's the thing though, because they'll complain when it's like that last week and you're like, you used to live in this. Like, we used to live in this, but we'll complain about it.
So going through school, obviously there and here, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do leaving school?
So when I was in Australia, I'm very, and this has changed to be fair a lot over the years, but when I was younger, I used to be quite heavily influenced by what other people were doing. And not in like a peer pressure sense, because I've always stood my own with that sort of thing. But then in terms of sort of like sports to play or, careers or whatever, I was always, open is probably the right word, rather than influenced. It was like, if he's doing this, I want to try that for a bit. Like, I don't want him being the only person who's doing that. I want to try it out, see is it for me or what? And growing up, I would say that for the most part, when I was growing up in Australia, I wanted to be a rugby league player. That was it. I didn't think of a proper career and I wasn't good. I wasn't very good initially. But my work ethic has always been the thing. I've never had talent. I'm not a talented person, right? Simple. People will argue with that. People that have seen how well I've done in triathlon will probably say that it's talent. People who see how well I've done in business will probably say that there's some talent or luck to it. There is not. I categorically deny that there is any talent within my bones. I work hard and I've got an ability to utilize the strengths that I do have. Yeah. So, I don't have talent. And initially when I was playing rugby, so I started playing football for a team, as in soccer. That's what it was in Australia. And I was in like Division 3, I think. And Division 1 was the only thing worth playing, right? Like anything else was just shit. Like it was just a shit standard. No one was interested in that. You were never going to get scouted. You were never going to play for an academy. Like it was just, you were playing about, you know what I mean? And I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that everyone else did because they were just playing. They weren't bothered. But I've never liked it. I've never been someone that just wants to participate. Like I want to be in the team at least that is doing well, and operating properly and taking it seriously. I don't really have the ability to do things for fun. Like it's not really within my my makeup. So I was in Division 3 and then I think that team maybe got to Division 2 and even at that point, it was like we were celebrating like mad. I'm thinking, well, yeah, look, I'm not celebrating like this. Like we're still shit. We're still not Division 1. Do you know what I mean? Like this is still crap. This. And one of my mates at the time, called Ben, was playing for a team called I can't even remember, like Northwest Union or something, or Northwest Bulls or something like that. And it was a rugby union team. I didn't really want to play union, but it was like my ticket in because I had a mate that played at the club and whatever else. And I thought, right, I'll just go and play union for a bit because league's a lot faster paced. This is just a better sport in my opinion. Anyway, I'm not a fan of union really. So anyway, I went and played union for a bit, like pecked my dad's head. Dad is just a massive football fan and player, and he was the coach of the other team and everything. So like when I've said to him, mate, I want to leave and I want to go do this, he's like, of course you do. Of course you want to make your own mind up and go and do something else. So which has just been like the scene for the rest of our lives really. But yeah, so he wasn't happy about it, but he facilitated it, which he always does. Even if he's not happy about something, he'll always let me go and do it. So anyway, I then went and played union for a season, decided I didn't really like union, but I still wanted to keep playing rugby. So I've transferred over to a league team called Rousehill Rhinos. And I started in Division 2 with them. And then, but it was a relatively new club. And I remember the coach at the time, what was his name? Dan. It was Dan something. And I remember meeting him and thinking, this team's going to go Division 1 100%. Like, there's no way that this guy is going to... He took it seriously, like, even for a Division 2 team, I thought, yeah, he's definitely going to take this seriously. So anyway, we progressed into Division 1 probably within a season or two. And then, yeah, I think I used to captain some games and be like, the sort of like back captain for majority of the games. I was like the lead point scorer. I was doing really well. I was training a lot so I'd have my dad take me to the rugby pitch in the training. So I think we used to train twice a week and I used to train like 5 times a week. I train every single time that I could, be the first at training, last to leave. Like I was obsessed with it, absolutely obsessed with it. And this is what I mean. I wasn't, to anybody else looking in, I wasn't some star player that was definitely going to be a rugby league player in the NRL, but in my head, that's what I thought I was going to do. Do you know what I mean? I was just, I was away with the fairies and thought, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, we were coming up to a trial with, I can't remember what it was now. It was like, it was either a game that we were going to play and there was going to be scouts there, because it was our first sort of proper Division 1 match where we were really competitive and we'd been playing really well. And I was on top of my game. I was the fittest I'd ever been. And anyway, we were warming up for a training match before this game, and there was a set of twin lads called Jacob and Joey, and one of them's gripped me from the top, just walking through a drill. It wasn't even a proper drill. It was just like, walking through a drill. And one of them's gripped me from the top, and the other one's coming from the bottom. And I can't remember what the exact sort of diagnosis on it was now, but I've basically like ruptured my lateral collateral ligament, so down the side of my knee, so like similar to your ACL in a way, but on the left hand side. And I was only like 13, 14 at the time, so I was in a splint for probably about 6 weeks, and then couldn't walk or run for like 6 months. And then by the time I went back to playing rugby, I just bottled every single tackle, mate. I remember starting on the bench, which was like the worst. I remember turning up to the match and sitting on the bench, and I was looking at, I think, my dad in the crowd. It was either my dad or my mum or something. I'm thinking, oh my God, like I've gone from being at the top of my game to like the coach doesn't even trust me to start on the field. I remember just feeling like absolutely like disgusted. And I got on the field, and mate, there's a picture somewhere, and it's really cool, but there's this picture of, we were playing at the Hills Bulls ground, I think it was, which was a bit of like a rival in the Hills district, and still Division 1, still like a decent team and whatever else. And I've been subbed on, and the first tackle that I've gone into, so I was carrying and I've gone into this tackle, and the second that someone's touched me, I've just fallen to the floor because I just didn't have it in me to start trying to wrestle anything. I just shit myself. And I knew straight away that there was nothing I was going to do, especially within that match, to solve that. I just lost it. I'd lost the edge. Like I was too scared that I was going to get injured. So I'd never been injured before. And then when it happens, you're like, oh my God. Like,
pretty serious injury as well.
Yeah. Like to the point where, I was like hobbling around on crutches for like nearly 6 months. Like at that age, it's pretty heavy. So yeah, just absolutely shit myself. And I dropped down to the floor, and one of them's giving me some shit, or he's like either smacked me, or he's like tickled me or something and called me a bitch or something like that, because I've just dropped to the floor, and I knew it was true. So it's pissed me off. So I've stood up and I've lobbed the ball and I've gripped this lad, and there's this picture. I don't know. I need to find it somewhere because I've lost it since, but there's this really cool picture of me gripping this lad and about 8 of these Hills Bulls players all coming in on me. So there's like 8 lads and just me like holding this lad. I think I ended up getting pummeled after that, to be fair, but it looked cool just before it happened. So then I've probably like just thrown my toys out the pram and I just stormed off the field, and I said to Dan, I said, sorry mate, I'm not playing again. And I've said like, mum, we're going, or dad, we're going, and we've just left, and I've never played again. But I tell a lie, I never played it again for them. I ended up playing I actually played for Hoppers for a bit when I got back here. That's, again, a whole nother story. I played for college for a bit. Again, it was union, so I didn't take it very seriously. And then played like 1 or 2 games for Hoppers, and again, didn't really like it. And I only did it because they asked me to after seeing me at college and whatever. But yeah, so then after that, I was hanging out with a group of lads who wanted to... So they were all, one of them, their dad owned like a local GP practice. He was I can't remember what race he was now. He was like Iranian or something like that. He was called Aryan. And he was sort of studying to do something called the UMAT, which is the University Medical Admissions Test. So basically to become a doctor. And I remember thinking, I'm going to do it then. I want to be a doctor then. Because if he's being a doctor, and he used to, like, his dad had a very nice house and loads of nice cars and whatever else. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So anyway, I started sort of studying a little bit for that. And I remember, I think I went home once and I told my dad that obviously he knew me. He knew me very well from a young age and still knows me very well now. And like, I think he probably knew exactly where I would end up. So then listening to me come home and go, I'm going to be a doctor. And he was like, no, you're fucking not. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Yes, I am. And then obviously it started this whole war between us again, because then my mum would always back me. So she'd be like, if he wants to be a doctor, he's going to be a doctor. And then my dad's like, he's already a fucking doctor. It was just like back and forth all the time. And then, so that lasted, obviously I stuck it out. I remember, mate, I was studying for these things and I can't even describe the questions. Have you done like aptitude tests and stuff before?
No, never.
Mate, it'd be like, if red equals green, but green does not equal red, and if green equals yellow but does not equal blue, then what is the cat's name, right? And you're like, what the hell? And I swear to God, every question was like that, and all that was just to see how your brain worked, to then see whether you would make, a good doctor because of the way that your brain works. And that's how aptitude tests work in general. And I've done loads since for like loads of different jobs that I've had since then. But I remember like studying it at the time, and like I was just pretending, mate. I knew, I was reading them. I'm thinking, it's taking me about 3 years to answer one of these questions. I need to answer about 100 of them in about an hour. Like, it's never happening. But because my dad had said that I wasn't going to do it, I was, you know what I mean? So anyway, then when that was what I held on to whilst I was in Australia. And then when I've come back to the UK, when we've moved back, that sort of like escaped me a little bit. All I kept saying was I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do career-wise, but I kept saying because I'd heard of Cambridge and Oxford, I wanted to go to Cambridge and Oxford, right? And again, like none of my like I hadn't even taken any exams at that point or anything, but none of the intelligence that I showcased in school would suggest that I could even get a sniff at any of them, right? But I just kept saying it to people. Like, I remember, so I came back and I couldn't, we tried to get me into, I was a year above in Australia for whatever reason, the high school that I'd been at, just because of the way that the difference in school years matches up, because they do different school years over there than we do over here. So the way that it ended up matching up meant that I would either have to repeat a year early on or just get put into the year above. So that they just put me in the year above, whatever. And so when I then came back, you don't do GCSEs in Australia. You don't do any exams until you're like 17, 18. So basically the same as like college, right? Sixth form, when you do your A-levels. So I had nothing to show. Like, I didn't have an ability to showcase that, I knew how to do maths, or I knew how to do English or whatever. So we went to St. Bede's and St. Wilfrid's that were close to us in Fennisclose, that were meant to be decent enough schools. And they were both like, no, you're just going to ruin the exams here because you don't have a clue what you're doing. You've never done any mocks or anything, because I only had about 4 months, I think, 4 to 5 months to do all my coursework and then study the syllabus. So like, you can start, but you have to start back in year 10. So it meant going like back another year. And I was like, nah, I'd rather just not go to school. Like, I'm not doing that. And my parents, luckily enough, were on the same page as me and were like, yeah, you're not doing that. So then I ended up going to Waltley in Preston. Yeah. And at the time, I don't know what it's like now, but it wasn't a good school. Like, it really wasn't a good school. And I'd gone to a few bad schools in Australia. But then the school that I ended up at in the end was a really nice, like, sort of, it was like an Anglican college. So it was like, sort of led by God, right? So it was quite well to do. Do you know what I mean? It was a really nice school. And my mum was working extra shifts and stuff to try and put me in this school because she had to pay for it. And it was a really good school. I don't know if I got my benefit from it because I was just a prick all through school. And mate, my dad must have been in the principal's office there at least 6 or 7 times across like 2 years, right? Like, he knew him on first name terms. Like, I was hated. Like, I was such a bad student. Like, it's just laughable how bad I was. But then when I've come back here, all the kids at that school made me look like an angel. Like, I could not believe like some of the states of what was going on. I was thinking, oh my God, where am I? What is this? And I'd been saying to the principal before I'd like joined the school and stuff, he's going like, what are you thinking you want to do and stuff? And I'm going to go to Cambridge. He's like, you're not, pal. Like, that is not what you're doing. Trust me. Like, that's not happening. You'd be lucky to get a GCSE. So I was like, oh, right. Okay. So obviously I've started this school, and yeah, like I had to go in early and stuff to do coursework, because obviously I hadn't done any of it. So they only let me take, I think, like 7 GCSEs maybe. I can't remember what, I think it's 10, isn't it, normal? Like between 8 and 10. I think they made me take 7 so that I had enough time to catch up and stuff. And then I did like a BTEC or something to get 8. And then, yeah, like when I left college, when I left school and went to college, I actually I'd sort of changed my mind back again, and I thought I was going to be a doctor again because I got all right grades at GCSE, and obviously there was like extenuating circumstances, the fact that I'd only done them in 4 months. So I went to college and I chose like physics, chemistry, biology, maths, I think it was. Obviously like the typical things to go and be a doctor again. I think I did like 2 weeks and I was like, I'm not doing this. Yeah. I thought there's no way I can do all these. So I was getting on with some of them, but I just didn't have the motivation. I thought, I'm not going to be a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. That's not what I want to do. I've just been saying it for that long that it's become this thing that I'm trying to like, chase, but it's bullshit. I don't even want to do this. I just didn't have a clue, mate. I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. So I think I changed all them to like, I ended up doing economics, English literature, English language, and maths. And then I dropped maths in my second year. And the only reason I did the English is, I'm not afraid to admit I do like English literature. I like English language. I've always loved like the derivative of words and like how to use words. And like, remember I said before, I've not been talented, but I've always known how to lean into my strengths. Like I've always known that my ability with words, my dad's a very well-spoken guy. Well, he's very northern, but he's very well read, right? So well spoken is definitely not the right way to describe him. He is when he wants to be. When he's like in a corporate setting, he can be very well spoken, but he's very well read. So the words that he can use are like, still beyond my like comprehension. So then I probably sort of picked up a bit of that and known that I could probably do English language and English literature and get good grades without really trying very hard. So I've sort of leaned into them. And then, funnily enough, so I got put into this like further education plus scheme thing because I had done, I think I got like pretty much straight A's at GCSE. There's maybe one of them that wasn't an A or something. So the fact that I did them in 4 months and then got them, all to be in and around A's, I then got put into this further education plus thing. And I did not fit in within this group, right? Like they were all very studious individuals and I like didn't even want to be there. But I would turn up though, because it was sort of like, I had a bit of ego, like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm part of this little special group, but like didn't have any friends in this group. So anyway, this thing got put through that you could do a poetry analysis, right? And I think it was for like, not underprivileged, but like they were sending them out to like northern schools and stuff because Cambridge and Oxford were always recruiting from, the school Eton and things like that were around them. And they put it out to this. So it was from Cambridge specifically. And it was, you do this poetry analysis. You write up your poetry analysis of, I don't know who it was now, maybe Shakespeare or something like that, just excerpts of a poem. And basically the top 10 within like the North will get selected to go down to Cambridge. I think you got a guaranteed interview at Cambridge. He stayed in the halls for like a week, and you did lectures and ate with like all the current students and everything else. So obviously it's funny because I'd said it for that long, and then this thing came up and I thought, I'm good at poetry analysis, I'll do it. I love poetry. I don't read it anymore really, but when I was in school, I loved it. Like it was like, and a lot of people will not know that about me, but that is like, yeah, I absolutely love it. I write poetry now and again, like on my own, and like it never ever sees the light of day, but I do write, and if anyone like, follows me on Instagram and stuff, you can probably see it coming through like my captions and whatnot, because I do like to sort of play games with my words and whatever else. But like, yeah, I do absolutely love poetry. So anyway, I've done this poetry analysis and I think it was on a poem that I'd already like read before and knew quite a bit of and knew the contextual sort of references to it. So did this analysis, it got selected, went down, and my mum and dad were like buzzing because obviously like I'd been saying it for this long and like no one in my family had ever been to uni. So the fact that they like were driving me down there, they made a little weekend away of it in Cambridge and they were taking pictures of me with a little lanyard on that said Cambridge University, and I'm stood outside. There's this stupid picture of me. I look like an absolute goon stood out Cambridge University, like, thinking I'm sick. And anyway, I remember just like we had these lectures and stuff, and I loved the lectures and I loved the people who were delivering the lectures, and there was some really, really clever conversations going on and I liked it. And I wanted to see myself there because I've been saying it for so long or whatever else. And I just thought, nah, this is not for me, mate. This is just, these people are not me. Like they're not, even though, I think that if I worked hard enough, maybe I could get here and maybe, like this is my sort of like ticket in. And my mum and dad had started. So we have this like running thing within our family where I will convince my mum and dad of something. And then just as it gets to that point of like execution, I'll go, not doing this anymore. And they're like, what? Like we were telling you couldn't do this and now you're doing it. And now you're saying you don't want to do it anymore. And like, so this was like one of these situations where they were down there, they'd posted it on Facebook. They were buzzing thinking I was definitely going to follow through with it and do what I was going to do. And yeah, I was like, I remember coming out and they had this like big smile on the face after not seeing me for a few days. And I'm walking out with this like face on, like, it's not for me, this, mate. I'm not interested. My dad was fuming again, like, bloody hell. Like, it was like the rugby situation all over again. Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck's sake. But yeah, they were just, it wasn't anything. It was just like a square peg round hole scenario. Like, I was listening to the conversations and stuff they were having and the upbringings they had. And I'd not had a bad upbringing, but I was from the north of England, man. Like, and my dad, you know, did not have like a nice, he gave me a very nice upbringing, but he didn't have a nice upbringing, and he was a northern working class man, and my mum came from a working class family, and both of their parents did. And so then, like, when I'm having conversations with these people, and you know, it's a world that they can't even fathom that. So it was just I was never going to be able to make that work. You know what I mean? One of the girls that I went down with, actually, from my college, she ended up going to Cambridge and doing the course that we were going to do. But again, I think she came from a bit of a different background to what my family had. So then, yeah, like, did that. And then, do you want me to continue on the same topic here? Yeah. So because it spans into a lot here. So,
well, we're just following the path of your life here. So you lead.
Yeah. So after I knew that had died a death, that was like my last. So up until that point, what I'd been doing was I'd been getting the bus from home. It was the 152 from Fenniscoles to Preston, and used to go past Capital Centre, and the gym that I went to was Nuffield Health. So I used to get I was into like bodybuilding at the time, really. Like, I say bodybuilding, it was a hybrid between sort of bodybuilding and strength work. I used to lift a lot of weights and eat a lot of food. And I would get the bus from home at 152. My dad would be at home working or whatever. My mum would go to work, happy days. I'd get the bus. And I just get off one stop early and just go to the gym and not go to college. And then I'd spend like a good few hours at the gym, get back on the bus and go home. And it was like I'd done my 2 periods for the morning or whatever, right? So I was college, yeah, decent, mate, yeah, it was good, yeah. And I just go to my room and that was the end of that, right? And I just never said anything of it. And then it got to the point where there was a tutor. He used to have like a pastoral tutor, and she was belling me every day saying like, I'm going to have to get the police involved. It was definitely a false threat, but I'm going to have to get the police involved. Your attendance is like 25% or something like that. Like, I just hadn't been to college. And then I think she asked my dad's number, and I just gave her like a virtual number or something, or like some pretend number, or it might have been my mate's number or something like that I ended up just like answering and hanging up or something like that. Like, I just made it like as hard as possible for her to actually try and get through to my parents. And so they never knew anything of this. They never knew anything of this until I left college, basically. They did not know that I wasn't going to college. And then, so I sort of fudged my way through my AS levels, which were obviously the first ones. And then by the second year, I just thought, I'm not doing this. Like, there's no way, if it's taken me if it's taken this much work to get through the first year of college, no way I'm going to do the second year. So through the second year, I had a mate called Harry Best. We were both very similar, both into like a lot of physical activity. Both had a very similar mind, and we were both in English lit, so we used to do a lot of sort of like deep thinking and conversation and whatever. And he was the same as me. He hated it. He absolutely hated being at college. Did not want to be there. And this had been like, it sounds like it's sort of just fallen at the first hurdle, but like it was an accumulation of going the entire way through schooling and never ever ever liking anything that I was doing. Like, other kids, I don't think anyone really likes it, but like we talked about before, with being the person who tends to be the one that gobs off, I can't, if I don't like something, I cannot do it. Like, I've got like an inability. It's an actual like problem that I cannot move forward with something if I don't enjoy it or don't see the point in it. And it seemed that all through schooling, I just didn't see the point in anything that I was doing. And I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of, I am who I am because I went to the schools I went to and had the teachers I had and whatever. I think schooling serves a purpose, but at the time I couldn't see it. So when I got to college, it was like it had worn me down that much. I just thought, oh, mate, no way. Like, because it was hard. I actually had to think, and, some of the topics were quite challenging, and I just didn't have it in me. And so me and him started throwing the idea of leaving and joining the Marines. And because it was the only thing that I knew, that if I went home to mum and dad and I said, I'm leaving college, but don't stress, I'm going to join the Royal Marines, right? It'd be like, oh, right, okay, so like I'm coming to them with a problem, but also with a solution. And they didn't mind that, yeah. So if I came to them with a problem, they hated it. But if I came to them with both, all right, fair enough. So it meant that obviously, like, my mum and dad, we'd spoken about the military in the past, and we'd always said that I would leave college and I'd join as an officer. and you needed your A-levels and whatever else. But again, they wanted me to do something a bit higher class with my ability because they'd put a lot into me and whatever else. And so if I wasn't going to go to university, I'd have to at least take the officer route and get commissioned and whatever else. So we thought about that. But then I was just making it a bit premature by going, nah, I'm not going to be an officer. I'm just going to enlist and I'll join. And prior to this, I've skipped a little bit of a step. There was a point in time where I wanted to be a fighter pilot, right? So between the doctor and Marine, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, right? So I'm an astronaut. So I've gone back a little bit to like just after that where I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I was hell bent on that, and that gave me enough motivation because I needed my A-levels then to be like, right, okay, I will do my A-levels. And then I went and had a flying lesson, and I flew a Cessna 752 out of Blackpool Airport, and I had this fat mess of a man telling me what to do, right? And I remember we did like a barrel roll or something, and I felt so unsafe because I thought I don't have a clue what I'm doing, and I was in control. He basically just said, yeah, fly it. I'm like, what? What do you mean fly it? And I still remember him. He stank, mate. It was horrible. And I'm flying this plane, right? We were going over like Lytham and stuff, and he said, so anyway, why are you doing this? He's like chewing gum, or like he was just so disinterested in the whole thing, and I was taking it really seriously. So why are you doing this then anyway? Like, what are you trying to get like hours for? And I said, I want to join the RAF. I want to be a fighter pilot. He just laughed at me, right? And it was like, fat chance of that, mate. I was like, all right, why? And then he started telling me all these negative stories about, you know, how clever you had to be and whatever else. And it threw me. And I thought, I'm not even enjoying this. I don't like you. And I'm going to have to keep doing this to get my exposure up. And I could have gone somewhere else or whatever. But obviously, if I didn't want it that much, which I must not have wanted, the resistance to it, you know, as soon as it was met, I was just like, do you know what? I don't want to do it. So that sort of fell at that hurdle.
What a weird way to approach somebody who's doing a flying course for the first time.
He must have just been like either like a retired pilot or something that was working for that company. Do you know what I mean? Rather than the person who actually wanted custom.
Probably always wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Right? Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah, exactly that. So he's probably just gone, he's shat on it. The first thing that he can do, that you're not going to do that, mate. I couldn't do it, so you can't do it. Do you know what I mean? I'm 70 odd years old, still fat and horrible, working at Blackpool Airport. So like, you're not going to do it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I think so. You're going to end up the same. So anyway, yeah. But again, mate, the thing is, I can't go on roller coasters because I get really sick, right? Like 100%. Like I get sick if I don't sit in the front of the car. I get sick, yeah. Like so, I was never going to be a fighter pilot. Like it was never going to happen. But I just liked the idea of it. I just thought, yeah, I can do that. I wanted to be Top Gun. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, that was never going to happen. And yeah, so I probably knew that in the back of my mind. So obviously, I probably felt sick on that lesson as well and just thought, yeah, it's not for me, this. I'm going about 10 mile an hour. I can't do 100, you know, or 1,000, whatever it is, breaking the speed of sound. So anyway, or speed of light, whatever it is. So after that, I thought, all right, well, if I'm going to join the military, then the only thing I'm going to be able to do is be a foot soldier. Like, that's the only thing I can do. And I was 17 at the time. I thought, the thought of leading Royal Marines in a year from now, I can't do that. So even though my parents wanted me to be an officer, it didn't make any sense to me. I thought I don't have the credibility to do that. There's no way. And that is the case. Again, you have to have a specific upbringing to be the type of person that can, at like 18, 19 years old, once you've been through training, be in charge of a troop of lads that have done tours and are like proper men, and you're a boy still, just wearing a beret and a pib. So anyway, like, me and Harry both had this idea, both trained for it, and then I was still really fat. Like I sort of missed that bit out, but I was like, because I was training so much at the gym and eating so much, it just didn't match up. And I was big, mate. Like I was a big lad. I think at like 17, I weighed about 105 kilograms or something like that. So I was a pretty big lad. And I'd gone from being fit in my younger years where I was training for rugby and I wanted to be a pro rugby player to then like this, yeah, just big weightlifter that could probably bench like, I think at the time I thought that I had decent bench, and I think I could bench about 110 kilograms, and I weighed 105. But I thought that was good. You know what I mean? Like, well, I'm 5 kilograms over my body weight, so like, no, mate, because I can bench about 110 now, and I'm like 70 odd kilograms. So I realized that I was just a messer. Mate, I was eating like 20 chicken nuggets a day, like every day. I had my first car, so I used to drive down to Capital Centre, eat 20 chicken nuggets, and then go in the gym every day, mate. I was addicted to it. So we're both training, and I remember, and it's one of the only times I've ever like properly lied to my missus, because I was with my missus obviously throughout all this, and I told her I was going to join the Marines, whatever, and I was going and doing like the fitness test. You had to do 1.5 mile on the treadmill in under 12 and a half minutes, and then have a bit of a rest, and then do another 1.5 miler in under 10 and a half, I think it was. Or that might have been the actual test, to be fair. I think that the treadmill test might have just been a warm-up, and then you do it under 10 and a half, whatever it was. I couldn't do either of them, really. But I remember doing, like, a simulation, and I failed it. Like, within about 3 minutes at this pace, I completely failed it. And I came home to camp. She went, how did that test go? I went, yeah, all good. All good, yeah, defo. She said, really? I said, yeah, I'll definitely do that. No problem anyway. My test was, like, the next week or something. And I remember going in, and I just failed it, mate. Just outright failed it. I was like, again, probably got like 4 or 5 minutes in and just did not have the ability to run at it. I think the pace was something like 4 minutes a kilometer, maybe 4 or 5. And the funny thing is, so about 4 years later, or like 4 or 5 years later, I ran a marathon at 3:35 per kilometer. And so at the time, I couldn't run for 5 minutes at 4:05 per K. And then 4 years later, I had the ability to run, a marathon at like 3:36, around 2:30 marathon. And
then you're just going back, you're just cementing what you said about always putting hard work in. No time.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly, mate. And when, so that, I didn't even want to join the Marines. It was the reason I wanted to do it was because I knew that it was an out from college. That was my headspace. So I failed, and then I was like, it just ate away at me like every day. I pretended it didn't, but every day I thought, I've actually just failed that. Like, you are shit. Like, what a shit bag you are. Like, I can't believe you just failed that, because you lied, and you lied to your missus, and you lied to yourself, and you pretended that you had the ability to do it, and you don't. And Harry passed. He ended up snapping his shin or something after that, and he never joined. But like, he'd passed and I hadn't, and I was like, wow, what's happened to you? Like, how have you gone from this person who took pride in his physical ability to like, now, okay, I can lift some weights, but like, I can't run a bath. Do you know what I mean? What's going on here? So put it to bed for a little bit, managed to scrape through my A-levels and actually get some decent grades somehow on like 45% attendance or something by the back end of it. And still to this day, I do not know how I did that. Like, that was luck. Do you know what I mean? The fact that I actually got decent grades, I'm like baffled by. So I got 3 GCSEs in English Lit, English Language and Economics. And again, without sort of going too much on about it, like, my economics teacher was like one of the best people I've ever met. And fast forward to my business now, I still want to see her. I still want to see her knocking about so I can tell her how much of an impact she's had, because if I didn't listen to what she had to say, and she made it so interesting that I listened, and now it formats a lot of the decisions that I make in business today, and investments and everything, like, all came from her. But so managed to get my A-levels, and then I was, at the time, so I started when I was in college, I worked at a children's centre for learning disabilities, basically. So they had like severe autism. So they were self-injurious. So they used to like go around either smashing their heads off walls or punching themselves in the face or whatever, just through like severe frustration of, the ailment that they had. And I ended up at one of these houses, and I was working there for a little bit. And prior to that, I'd been a lifeguard I was a lifeguard at a holiday park, a lifeguard at David Lloyd in Chorley, and then ended up doing this because I'd basically met an autistic kid at David Lloyd when I was lifeguarding, and thought, that's quite interesting. Like, I got on with him really well, and I thought I think I spoke to my mum about it. She said, you could do support work, you can go and like look after them. I thought, oh, cool. Did that, mate. One of the best things I've ever done. Like, it was doing it at a young age. It's something that I hear a lot of people sort of, want to do it later on in life, or they give back or whatever, but like doing it young. A lot of these people I was looking after at the time were the same age as me. Like, it was a children's home, like 16, 17. And I learned so many lessons there, and it forced me to mature very quickly, but there was just no progression in it. Like, if I was, I've always been someone that I didn't know how I was going to be successful, but I wanted to be. I always wanted to be. So I was never just going to sort of settle for a job that I knew I was going to be on the same amount of money for the rest of my life and not have any management qualities or anything. And it was just never going to happen. So it was whilst I was in that, I started doing quite a bit of triathlon training. So I was not for triathlon purposes, just because I knew it was going to get me really fit. So I was swimming, biking, running.
Is this still going off that you failed that test?
Failed the Marines test. Yeah. So I think I lost about 20 kilograms in about 3 months, maybe two to 3 months. Lost loads of weight, just running all the time, barely eating. I was just like, I just fasted. Again, I've got like a switch, man. And if a lot of people will say that, and I don't mean it in a cringy sense, but if I change my mind on something, it's done. Like, if I don't want to change my mind, it's hard to. But if something occurs, like a catalyst where I fail something, and I'm like, I can't let that be my fucking legacy forever. Do you know what I mean? That I failed that
From
test.
everything you've already told me, I already knew that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you're talking about, really wanted to do this, always wanted to go to Cambridge, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that now. Done. See you later, to the next one.
And I never think
There's a
about it
pattern
ever
in your
again.
life.
Yeah. So it continues all the way up until where I am now. But like when I was, that happened, failed the Marines test and ended up getting really fit using this job. I was working like afternoon shifts. So I was working, I think 2 o'clock till 10 o'clock every night. So it meant that the first half of the day could just be spent training. I was living at home with my parents, train my ass off, swim, bike, run, and get really fit, lose all this weight. I was shredded out my tits. Like I was the fittest that I've ever been.
Still weightlifting or not?
Little bits, more like calisthenics, really. So I've always kept the strength because it's massively important. I've always known that. I've never wanted to get rid of it. And then that started, I sort of skipped a little bit, but the strength side of things started when I snapped my knee. So I wasn't really doing anything until then. And then when I did that, I needed to rebuild. And then I saw how important rebuilding was. And then I've always kept doing it since then. Doing press ups though, because I knew that the Marines tests were press ups. Because now I wanted to join the Marines. Like I'd gone from like failing this fitness test, didn't want to join. It was never something I wanted to do. My dad wanted me to do it more than I wanted to do it. My granddad did. I didn't want to do it. I never wanted to do it. But now I couldn't think of anything else because I needed to pass these tests, right? So it wasn't the career. I hadn't even thought of the career. I just needed to pass these tests. So then I was looking a step forward. It wasn't just a treadmill test. It was then going down and doing PRMC, which is potential Royal Marines course. And down there you have to do a series of gym tests, press-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. So when I was working this residential home, every time I go through a door frame, I'd drop down and do 10 press-ups. And then I'd get back up and walk on. And then every single time I would, go down a set of stairs, go up the stairs, I'd do the same thing. So I was just doing press ups like daily, all the time. Probably like, over 100 a day, just accumulatively throughout the day. Get up, do 10 press ups, finish my breakfast, do 10 press ups, like whatever, because I just knew I needed to be good at them. So got that fit that then I remember running a 39:59 10K, which I was like over the moon with because I couldn't believe I broke 40. And then that was at Preston, actually, Preston 10K. I don't even know if they still do that event anymore. But so I booked my test again, booked the fitness test again. And I remember just being like, I was so confident, mate. And I couldn't wait to just go in and just breeze it because I knew that the pace that I needed to hit was just a piece of piss now. I tested it that many times to make sure that I knew. So I was doing it like, double. I'd do double the distance at double the pace so that I knew that I could just go in and just like not even break a sweat. I remember doing it. And I remember the girl like that was facilitating the test at Nuffield, funnily enough, at Nuffield in Capital Centre. And she was facilitating the test. She's got a little thing out. She said, "You're right, you need to be at this pace for this long or whatever." I started at that pace. And then like after about a minute, I just pressed the plus button and just held it down. She's like, "Are you sure you're okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, sound." Just like kept running. I don't think I maxed it out. I won't lie and say that I maxed the treadmill out, but I got it up to like, I don't know, 18K an hour or something. It was probably doing like 330 a K. And I was just like, is it going to get hard this? Like just being an absolute prick, mate, because I was so buzzing about the fact I'd gone from doing 5 minutes and failing and being embarrassed to like, I can be a boy now. I could do this. So anyway, like passed it, piece of piss, whatever. Went down to PRMC. Long story short, did really well down there. Got like a grade A pass. And they send you home with a pair of boots and you've got to polish them up before training. Now, in my head, the only point that I thought to was PRMC, right? I thought I need to nail PRMC, go a step further than what I'd failed, and then I can put it to bed because I don't want to do this, yeah? I knew I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be a Marine. That's not what I wanted to do.
So who was you trying to prove this? Is this proving to
Just
yourself?
myself, yeah. So it was like, right, okay, I'll do PRMC and then I'm done. And then they send you home with these boots. And when I came home and I'd got this grade A pass, you get a certificate for it. And if you get a grade A pass, you get a sooner starting date for basic training, for foundation and initial training and everything. Just go back down south. And I remember coming back up and like I came home with a certificate and my boots, and my mum and dad, I've just never seen pride like it. And I was like, oh my God, like they want me to do this, don't they? I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. Like it's not the career that I want. I don't want to. My wife, who was obviously my girlfriend at the time, was always my best friend, right? Like just never, no, again, speaking before about like the constants in my life, like I've never had constant friendship groups because I've always lived, here, there and everywhere. So she was one of the constants. She'd become a family member. She was my best friend. I spent every day with her. The thought of then not being with her for weeks and weeks and weeks, months at a time, I was like, it's literally the opposite of the career that I want. Like I want something where I'm with her all the time. And, you know, I didn't even want to sit in an office 9 to 5. I think that was too much time away from her. So like she didn't really want me to join, but she was never going to tell me no, because we'd agreed from being young that we would never hold each other back, because we met at like 14, 15. We knew that something like that would eventually happen. So again, probably through my granddad as well, mate. I think my granddad cried. Like my granddad had a military career that was short lived because he had grommets in his ears or something. He got kicked out, and it wasn't his fault, and he loved it, right? And it was like he was living vicariously through me, and it was a step further because it was the Marines, and it wasn't, you know, some like different infantry regiment. It had a lot more to it. And so I was like, oh shit, I'm actually gonna have to do this. And then I did. I went down. Long story short, I did 6 months, and the training that you do when you're down there, like, is you can't explain it to someone unless they've done something like that, right? Like, you think you know hard, but until you go and do something like that, either that, like an arduous course like that, or like P Company, or just parachute regiment training in general, any infantry training, to be fair, across the whole of the British Army, or any infantry any infantry regiment in the British Army, and then also the Royal Marines, like it's just a different world that you can't foresee. And at 17, 18 years old, it's like such a shock to the system. Like it's mad, and there's just zero sympathy. It's like the best thing ever, because you learn that. Again, I was such a gobshite. I think I got the amount of sort of like either near scraps or actual scraps that I got in whilst I was down there for being a gobby little prick, and like thinking that it was normal. Do you know what I mean? And thinking, because I've always been able to get away with it, and I've always been around other people that, okay, they might arc back at me, but I'm not scared of them, so I can get back at them. And now I'm in a different situation where I am a bit scared and I don't want to end up in a confrontation. So like, you know, there was a lot of situations that like just beat the sort of bullshit out of me. Brought me right back down to, like, to be honest, it probably took me from being confident to being insecure, like in a really short. My missus said that, like, that when she saw me after not seeing me for, I think, about a month, or like short 2 months, was like, oh my God, like you're a shell of who you used to be. Like I used to walk around like I was, you know, I could take on anything, and it took me right back down to like, nah, mate, you're not. Like, you're just the same as every other bloke, and that's it. Period. You're not special. You can speak special. You can say big words. No one gives a fuck, mate. Like there's people down there that were like had neuroscience degrees, and like there was a bloke that had like a PhD in something, and like, you're all the same. You're all just the same. It doesn't matter. None of that shit matters. None of what you think you've done matters. None of your story is relevant. And did 6 months, and I got to, there's a point in training where you basically have to, so unless you get injured or fail the course, you can't leave. So your return of service starts, basically. So you have to do another 3.5 years in service, basically. At that point, I think it's 21, between 21 and 24 weeks, like around the 6 month point. And I got to that point, and I was like, I can't do this when it's something that I just absolutely do not want to do.
Is there a discussion before that as well? Is there a sit down where they say, right, you're at this point now, there's no going back once we go further?
It's just referenced throughout training, really, that is the case, and that's how it all works. And then you're always aware of it, because basically if you're going to quit, then you know, you sort of need to quit by that point. Otherwise you're fucked, and you have to stay for however long, unless you fail, like I say, or get injured. But and I could have quit day one, mate, and a lot of lads could through being soft, but I could have quit knowing I didn't want to do it. I got down there and thought, this is just not for me. I could have quit. I should have quit when I did my PRMC, and I didn't want to do it anymore. Do you know what I mean? Left it. But at the same time, then it would have been like a could have been, or should have been, or would have been, or whatever. And I wouldn't have wanted that either. So I got to the 6 month point. There was this thing called a seamless transfer, where you could transfer out to the reserves at that point. And because you're a qualified soldier, you weren't a soldier really, but you'd done phase 1. So you were in phase 2 of training. It was more so about like actual combat skills and doing your commando course. And I should caveat this with the thing that was the biggest sort of driving factor for it was the fact that I knew that there was no wars going on. And the only things that sort of ever semi-motivated me when I was looking at it beforehand was there was a show on YouTube called Commando on the Front Line, I think it was called. And it followed a troop through training. And then they went into pre-deployment training. And then very closely after that went into went on to Afghanistan, right? And they were all like sort of together, and you could, it found them out there and like showcased everything they were doing. And so at the time when it's gone from like me not wanting to do it, and then I've ended up in a position where I'm like, right, okay, like I'm in this place now where my parents sort of want me to do it and whatever else. And so I sort of tried it, and the whole talk amongst like any of the lads that were training you and whatever, it was all like, why are you even joining? Nothing's going on. Like, what are you doing this for? Like, it's a bit pretend. And you tried to sort of not let it get in your head, but then it did get in your head, and you're like, well, I don't know why I'm doing this. I didn't want to do it in the first place. The only thing that's motivating me is doing something that's bigger than me. And not, it's a silly thing for anyone to say that you want to go to war, right? But if you're doing that, then that's the job that you're signing up to do. So it's the thing that you want to go and do. Do you know what I mean? Whether you then regret that, or whether you would, think that you were immature saying that, maybe, but it was never going to happen regardless. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. And I thought, I'm not waiting around for 4 years and not doing, not making a life of my own and what I want to, because it's just going to set me back 4 years. I'm going to spend however much time in here. It won't set some people back, of course. Some lads, it made sense for them, but for me, it just didn't. Like it's just not what I wanted to do. So anyway, found out about this transfer out where I could transfer out to a reservist troop, and still complete my commando course. Now, if that wasn't an option, I wouldn't have left. I would have done the 3.5 years purely for the spite of the fact that I would not have wanted to quit. I just couldn't quit, right? So the fact that there was an option to leave and still do my commando course, still do what I needed to get my green beret, and then deal with whatever I wanted to deal with after that, because you're on your own. You were a civilian, technically. You were still a civilian, so you'd signed off as a sort of active member of military, and you just became a civilian that was also still in the military, but on your own accord. It's just such a better situation. It just is a 10 times better situation. And when people find out about it, there's a lot of lads in the Corps that don't like the reserve side of things because they know it's a better scenario. And if they'd have known about it, they'd have probably done that. But like, people just don't like admitting that. And so anyway, I joined them and met some of the best. It was out of a place called HMS Eaglet in Liverpool, and they were all scouts, right? So I've gone from, again, being with like a whole mix of lads down south, moving away from my family and everything, to coming back up here and then going there like 2 or 3 times a week, going away on exercises at the weekends. And they were honestly, mate, like, yeah, they took me in like I was a scouser. Like, they were just like the best blokes ever. I'm still better mates with a lot of them than I was from the lads that I was in regulars with. And yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. Did my commando course, got my green beret, and then the story that went after that was like, so I knew that I didn't really want to do anything after that. I'd served the purpose that I wanted to serve. I'd completed training. I'd proved to myself that I wasn't some biff that had failed my fitness test, and that was the end of it. Do you know what I mean? I'd done the physical side of it. And then I got asked to go on a boat for like 6 months. And I thought it was like the best thing ever. Because at the time, a lot of lads wanted to do like, I can't remember what it was called now, like boarding teams, where you were basically like, it was like piracy, anti-piracy. So you were going and like fighting pirates basically. And it was like the best gig that you could get at the time because there wasn't anything else going on. That was the only sort of proper combat that you could do. So I'm thinking, oh, sick. And no one else was really saying yeah to it. And I said yeah. And I thought, like, why is no one else saying yeah? Well, everyone must be busy or something. Like, what's going on? And why are they not giving this to like regular lads? Like, why is this happening? Anyway. So I said, yeah, sound, I'll do this. And another lad said yeah, that I'd passed out with. Anyway, when like the pre-deployment sort of leaflet came through and everything, transpired that it was like a sentry duty job basically, where so it was going to be me and this other lad as the only Marines on a ship for 6 months. You were going to get off like once. It was not combative. You were just basically security guards on the ship. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that. Like, that's just not happening. So then this is where things take a weird turn, because at the time, obviously I had to have a full-time job at the same time as I was doing this reservist thing, even though it was like almost full-time still. You took a lot of your time up. I was working with special needs again out of a day centre, like 9 to 5. And I've done that, and I thought there's no progression in this. And then at the same time as realising there was no progression in that, and I was sort of coming to the end of my sort of tether with the Marine side of things. And I was like, how am I going to get out of this deployment? Because I've said yeah. And then I didn't know what I was doing. So I just didn't respond to any of the like information I was getting from anyone. Like, I had people from very high up in the Navy messaging me, emailing me, telling me to do this, telling me to do that. They were calling my parents' home phone because they couldn't get a hold of me. So at this point, I'd technically gone AWOL, where like I was at like risk of, I'm sure they called my parents phone and said, if he doesn't respond to like this or that or whatever, then we're going to take him to like military prison or something.
Oh,
like
jeez.
it got to some extent similar to that. And I was like, oh shit. So, and again, it was probably a false threat, but it was something along them lines, because I had said yes to this deployment and then I'm like just airing everything. I'm not turning up to things and whatever. So again, immature decision, but I just didn't, like we've referenced a few times throughout this, if I don't want to do something, I'm not doing it. And I just couldn't see another way from it. I just thought, well, I'm not doing that, so I'm just going to ignore you, because I didn't know what the option was to get out of it. Anyway, found out that if I went to uni, I could get out of it, right? But I didn't want to go to uni either. But I needed to get out of this thing, right, that I didn't want to do. So I've basically thought, right, what's similar to like special needs? So I looked into like, because I did like special needs, but again, there was no progression in it. And I thought, well, this is the thing that I'm sort of enjoying. I've got a little bit of a passion for. How can I get out of this? Where can I go with it? And then my mum's a nurse. And I thought, well, maybe if I go into like nursing, I can do something to do like nursing. What the hell? You know what I mean? What's going on there? Do you know what I mean? How have I gone from like everything else that I've been doing to then saying, yeah, I want to be a nurse?
Yeah, this is not in line with where you've been going at
nothing
all.
at all, right? This is like the weirdest side quest that I ever went on. So then I'm like, right, I want to be a nurse then, because I need to do this degree. I need a degree. I need to showcase to this bloke. There's basically this higher up saying to me that, right, well, the only reason we'll let you not go on this deployment is if there's like something else in your personal life that is like more important or whatever. So anyway, I've like applied for this degree that I knew I could get on or whatever, to get these papers to send to him to then say like, I'm going on a uni course, mate. Like I have to do this. It's the only time I can ever do it, whatever. So, and part of that was like, sort of like, I have to resettle into like my civilian life, and I've been finding it hard. I didn't know what I wanted to do and whatever else. And because I'd done that and I'd said what I'd said, it then made it a little bit easier to sort of like distance myself from it. So they said, yeah, okay, no worries, that's absolutely fine. But then obviously at this point, my name's mud, because I've gone through training, they've put however much money into me, and I've wasted time, haven't I, really? That is how they will see it from their side. From my side, I was a young, confused lad that didn't really know what I was doing and where I wanted to go with anything. And I was only ever proving a point to myself. Do you know what I mean?
You're probably not the only person to do that within that career either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But the thing is, what the situation there is that a lot of people they'd have just left, right? So and then that's that. So there's no sort of like badness on that. You get called a bit of a bitch and that's the end of it. I didn't want to leave because I didn't want to be a bitch. I didn't want to not do training. I didn't want to not finish what I'd started, because that wasn't me. I'd never done that. So I needed to finish. And I remember saying at the time, like I remember talking to the training team, and because like when I was down there, I got PT Superior, which is like an award that you get for being so fit. And again, that was another like sort of full circle moment from failing to then when I'm down there getting like one of the most physically superior in my troop. Out of like 50 lads, I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 of us that got it. And then you had to do like a specific assessment in the gym. So it was like a really cool thing that I got. I've still got a certificate at home. Like, again, another thing that I sort of like banked in the lead up. And then when I've gone to leave, they're like, oh, well, you know, like what's going on? Because you're good at everything. You're good at soldiering. You're good in the field. You're really fit. Like you're one of the fittest in the troop. Like I'd done a few little bits of leadership within the troop as well, like that they'd asked me to do and whatever. Like what's going on? I was like, I just don't want to do it though. Like I don't want to do it. And I found a way that I can basically have my cake and eat it. And I didn't say that, but I remember one of them saying it to me, and he was fuming with me. And it was the one who was in charge of my section. And he was like, all you're doing, he was like, Townsend, you're just fucking trying to get your cake and eat it. And I remember him saying it. I'm thinking, well, yeah, but of course I'm going to fucking do that. Like, just because you don't want me to do that, I will do that because that's what I want to do. Do you know what I mean? They made no sense to me. I was like, you're just a man trying to enforce something that is being enforced down on you. And I don't want that enforced on me. And I found a way out. And you can't argue with that way out. So I'm doing it. And so anyway, so that's why it became a bit of a thing that like a lot of lads probably wouldn't do, knowing that it was like a bit of a, well, people probably hadn't thought of doing it. And if they were going to leave, they were going to leave. It didn't matter if they were going to go reserves or not. They were never going to pass because they'd go to the reserves and they'd fail again because they just didn't have the minerals in them. So, yeah, anyway, it like I say, it turned into a situation where the lads that I'd been with throughout training and everything, like all of them, still really good mates with them. None of them would say a bad word about me. Like I was at one of their christening one of their son's christenings recently, like met up with loads of them again, and like we're all good mates. We all have a hell of a lot of respect for each other, and they knew exactly who I was because they'd spent a lot of time with me in the field, like talking shit. They knew who I was. They knew why I'd done what I'd done. It was just from higher up and below that, or higher up and down rather. They just thought, little prick, man. Like he's come, he's got what he's wanted, and then he's fucked off. Like, and he's just not had no regard for anyone in the process. And again, I see it, but if I was to go back and do it differently, like I don't see it. I've thought about it loads, and I don't see a way that I would have done it differently. Because you could say, oh, I'd never do the fitness test, but then I'd have probably always thought about doing that fitness test. You know what I mean? And so, and I wouldn't have done it differently where I'd have stayed. I didn't want to stay. I didn't want to do it. So I would have never done it differently. Do you know what I mean? I can apologize and say, yeah, it probably wasn't the best thing for me to do the way that I went about it, but I would do it the exact same way again.
This goes back to the very start when you told me. Stubborn. That's the first word. One of the first words you told me.
But I can always hold my hands up and see it from someone else's perspective. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to take back, the way that I acted, or like, because I am where I am because of the things that I've done. And I still back all of that. And then, so I did nursing for a little bit. I can't remember how long it was, maybe like 6 months or something. And I was still working full time. Working full time or part time, maybe doing the same thing that I was already doing with special needs. And then I applied for the fire service. Something that I probably have missed out a fair bit because it's sort of semi-irrelevant initially, because I was that confused with what I wanted to do. I would have always said, and I sort of always say in retrospect, one of the things that I always wanted to be was a firefighter. But I also really wanted to do all them other things that I said that I wanted to do, right? So like, was that my dream job? Was it not? It was definitely one of them, but I didn't really know what it meant. So again, was it true? Was it not? I applied when I was 17, didn't get in. There's no story to tell about that. I was just too young, and I'd never even got a reason for it. But I know now it was because I was 17, mate. Like I definitely wouldn't have had the ability to do the job. And then applied when I left the Marines to West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. Got really far down their process, and then again, long story with that. But there was like just some clerical thing that meant that I ended up on like a reserve list, like a waiting list, rather than getting in. And then anyway, so I think it was the third time that I applied to the fire service, right? I got all the way through you do a pad day, right? So physical assessment day. I did the pad day, got all the way through the pad day, nailed everything, and then never heard back from him, right? And then like a month later or something, you've not been invited back. And I thought, what the hell? I've done everything. I've got through the physical test, all the isometric tests. Isometric, is that what the word is? Aptitude tests, whatever they're called. And then I've not got in. Like, what's going on? And then this is a mad story. This, right? So I remember sitting on the floor in my mum and dad's front room, and Nationwide banking, right? At the time, they were doing like a referral fee of £100. So if I got someone to join, they get £100. I get £100. So my missus at the time, she was banking with someone else, and I said, bank with Nationwide, right? We'll both get £100. Happy days, was a lot of money at the time. So I said, do this. A lot of money now. So anyway, she does it, whatever. 2-3 months later, something like that, from me actioning this point with her, we still hadn't got £100, right? And she's been banking with them for however long. I'm thinking, oh yeah, whatever happened to that £100? So I'm going through my emails trying to find this thing, like what's going on here? Why have I not got this £100? Couldn't find it anywhere in any of my accounts. I had like 4 or 5 different email addresses. Gone into one of these email addresses, gone in the junk, and I've refreshed it, and the first email that popped up was Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service interview. I'm like, what's this? Thought I was dreaming, right? Because at this point, it had become something that like I really wanted to. I knew I didn't want to be a nurse. I was just biding my time, like playing around, not knowing what I wanted to do. I was well confused. That was probably one of the lowest points I had with the whole like coming of age, because I was like, what am I actually doing here? What the fuck am I doing in my life? I don't have a clue.
Yeah, especially because like you've gone, from everything you told me, you're so ambitious and you've got so many plans and goals.
Yeah.
It must
but
have been hard for you to be
apply
in that
it. Yeah. So it was like I'm in this position that I've sort of like just found myself in, but this isn't where I want to be, and I don't know what I want to do. And so the fire service was like this golden ticket. It was like, if I can get in there, like I'll fucking love it. Like that will be what I want to do. I can be at home, but I can still do something that, I see of a higher purpose, and I can use my attributes that are going to make sense in this job. And so anyway, I've obviously refreshed, and it's popped up, and I thought I was dreaming, mate. And I was like, no fucking way, what's going on here? And Cam's like, what's going on? I was like, shut up. I pressed on it, and it basically said that like they'd had that many people fail interview on the last recruitment, that they were going back to some people that rather than hosting a whole new recruitment system, the people that had gotten so far were going to invite these. So I was like the dregs basically of the people that had, not got in. And I was like, no way. Because I knew, I always said, if I get in front of them, yeah, I've got it. I can talk them into it. It will happen. Definitely. They'll hire me. So anyway.
How long had the email been sat in your junk for before you
Mate, like the day before or something.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
It was like the
what
day before.
Chances?
So like, this is what I mean. Like I refreshed it and it popped up. And if I'd never seen that, because I know lads who didn't see it and then ended up getting in like 3 years later because they applied again and again and again and however many times. So this one time was the time that, I checked and I actually saw it. I was one of the only people who saw this email because there was only a few of us that turned up and then only a few of us got the job. Basically anyone who turned up to that interview got the job. So I've interviewed and like, mate, I was so nervous. I was sweating my tits off and like, I just couldn't believe it because it felt like I was on the cusp of getting this thing that like I'd wanted for so long. And I thought it was going to fix my life and, and it did to be honest for a long time. So interviewed, got in, started training. And yeah, like the rest was history with the fire service. So I was in for like, I think just short of 5 years or something like that. And then this is where the whole business thing starts, right? So about, you do your probation for about 18 months, 2 years, maybe something like that. So you're not a fully fledged firefighter yet. But you are you're riding the fire engine like you are, and you're still going into jobs. And like, I still had some really good is a weird word in the fire service because it might be a really bad job, but like, for your experience, it was a good job. So I had some like proper good jobs. And then I've got 18 months, 2 years in, and me and a lad called Johnny. And again, this is the first time I've ever really like spoken about this because the people that were with me at the time around when the business started knew how it all came about, but no one since has ever really known about it. But me and Johnny went into business together with Peak Performance, which is the coaching company that we've got now. And at the time it was, yeah, like I say, I'd helped Johnny set things up and I was coaching Johnny for a little bit. It didn't last very long, that, to be fair, because we're very sort of like similar. Johnny was a mutual friend of Liam as well, to be fair. So I met him at the same time, really. And anyway, it's all been going really well. And then I won't go into the details of it because there's just not really any need. And I don't have a bad word to say about Johnny. He's a brilliant bloke and he was one of my best friends for many years. But the business just didn't work with us two, right? Just came to a loggerheads at some point, a little bit down the line, and we've ended up parting ways. But when we've started it together, it's then just grown and grown. And it got to a point where both of us were having conversations daily. He was welding and I was a firefighter. And we started having these conversations with each other like, can we do this full time? Like, could we start a business full time? And I had another business with a mate before this. Again, will be way too long to go into it, but it was like we registered it on company's house. It never traded. Like, business has always been something that, again, I've never had any clue how I was ever going to do anything business orientated. But again, like a lot of people, like a lot of blokes, especially, and females to be fair, but definitely blokes that want to provide and do well. Ambition marries up with business, doesn't it? It does. But sometimes you have to know what the hell you're going to do with that business because that ambition could just get piled into nothing. Do you know what I mean? You can just, like it did with that first business with a mate called Harry. We had a really good idea, really good concept. Didn't have a clue how we were going to execute anything. I think we once we'd like built a website or whatever else, spent a day down near like Tickle Trout. And we were at Tickle Trout actually trying to call leads. And every one of them's like, nah, shut up, mate. What you on about? I remember both of us just going, mate, this isn't going to work, this. We're like, yeah, let's just call it quits. And then we just never did it. Like, but we'd had conversations at that point about, like being millionaires and, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So then like when this business with Johnny started to take off, I was like, oh my God, like we've got customers are paying us. I'm actually having to figure out how we're going to set systems up and, coach these people and like, build a community and whatever else. And it was also new and exciting. And at the same time, I was not senior in the fire service at all, but I was senior enough in my own mind and my own career that I was starting to see problems and not keep my mouth shut about these problems like we talked about before. And that was becoming another sort of like square peg round hole situation like it did with every other job that I ever had. And it wasn't, it was the longest I'd ever lasted in a career. And it was, like I say, when I first joined, mate, it was the best thing I'd ever done. I couldn't believe that I was I was wearing a uniform that I was that I loved, that I'd worked really hard to get into. The job that I was doing, it was different because you'd gone through this hard training, but then I was actually going and doing the job. I was going into burning buildings, I was putting fires out, I was helping people, I was doing things that I wanted to do and using my ability and ambition to do that. But obviously the red tape and the sort of bureaucracy of it all was also pissing me off at the same time. So the job itself, still to this day, best job that I've ever done. If I ever needed a job again, like a job that was employed, I would do that 100% if I could get in again. But the bureaucracy of it, oh my God, and I probably would never get in because that is probably too obvious when I'm speaking. But like, yeah, I just couldn't handle the whole management side of things. But the job itself, mate, was the best thing ever. And yeah, like I said, this business is getting busier and busier, and we're having conversations about going full time. Not necessarily because either of us wanted to leave the jobs that we're in. Johnny did a bit. He was welding, and it didn't like it. But like, I wasn't really in a position where I wanted to leave my job. I liked it, but I was having a few problems that sort of like, made it enough that it was like, well, could it be better? Could my life be better? Could grass is greener? Could I leave and be my own boss? That's like everyone's dream. Could I do that? And over like probably 12 months, 24 months, maybe a little bit longer than that, it became like a more frequent conversation. We were getting busier and busier. It felt like when I was 50-50 and it was someone else, it was scarier, the prospect of doing that, because I thought, well, I could leave and then he does something and it ruins everything. Do you know what I mean? And then I've lost my dream job. I've lost my dream business. Like, no, I can't do that. So it wasn't until things came to actual fruition with Johnny leaving, and then it became all mine, and it was only in my control, that then I was like, right, okay, it becomes a serious prospect here that I could actually leave and do this myself. And I think at the time when I left, we had about 35 athletes, and it was just me coaching. I tried to take a coach on before that, and it didn't work very well. Again, I probably wasn't in the best position to be educating someone, and it just didn't. I had too many trust issues, and I didn't really want to like give anything out to anyone. So whilst I was trying to grow it, the only way to grow it was to get another coach and have him coach athletes. But then I wasn't in the position to be letting him do that. Do you know what I mean? So that didn't work. And then that sort of knocked my confidence a bit, because I thought, well, if I can't let him do that, then, how am I ever going to grow this business? And if I can't grow the business, then I can't leave the fire service. Like, and then the decision almost got made for me, because I was going from being a well-liked member of my team who had done a lot of work to be really keen. I was the keenest, I'm not going to say I was the keenest bloke, because there's a few people that were like just as keen as me, but it was a really keen watch. We're getting on really well as a team, and I was, trying really hard. I wanted to be a good firefighter. Like, I loved it more than I'd liked any job that I've ever had. And then I stopped doing that, not through choice, but because I was so busy on this. I was constantly on my phone, constantly replying to people, constantly replying to inquiries, trying to chase systems, like actually developing a website and having a better inquiry system, and like all these things like that you've got when you're a business owner were just constantly taking over my mind. And then it became like, I was at work and it was an inconvenience, and my boss is asking me to do something. I'm like, one sec, mate, I'm talking to someone, like, it's important, this. And he's looking at me like, are you serious? Like, well, what are you doing? But I couldn't see it, again, because I'd found something that was the most important thing to me at the time. And it was almost forced upon me, because I knew that I was comfortable in my job. I knew I could get away with being a bit of a prick, and I'd still get paid a salary, and I still, it was fine. Whereas this, if I let one person down, my rep's gone. If I let one person down and I've gone through this horrendous, like, sort of breakup with a business partner, my best friend that's now no longer my friend anymore, and still to this day isn't, because of this business, and all of that's for nothing. If I let this one person down, everything's very catastrophic in my mind with business. If I let one person down, one client, then I feel like it's all going to end tomorrow. Like, I feel like it's all over. And I'm getting better at thinking that that's not the case, because I know that you can always come back from stuff. And I've had situations that I've moved past and whatever, but at the time it felt that catastrophic. And I thought, you don't understand. You're asking me to ignore this person and do your job that you're asking me to do. But this job doesn't matter. It's going to get done anyway. And this job isn't going to get done. If it's not me working, it's not happening. There's no one else on this team, but we've got a team. So let other people pick up the slack. And I know that's a complete wrong way to be thinking, especially as a team member. Oh my God, like if any of my guys coaching for me now were speaking like that, I'm like, no, I don't even like you. Get away. Do you know what I mean? Like negative, like that is not how you need to be. And I know this now, but at the time, immaturity, like naivety in business and naivety in life, a passion for the business and an eroding passion for that job. And like, it was all just such a sort of boiling pot of emotion that I look back at certain situations and I think, you know, like when we talked before about like going back and doing things differently, and I couldn't go back and do things differently because at the time it was the only way that I saw fit. It was the only way that I saw that I could get out of these situations, but I wasn't acting right, and it was unfair on the team, definitely. And there was a few different situations that occurred with, you know, like being way too bothered about what was going on with the business and not caring about work. And it became way too apparent, and it never affected the job. I would never let it affect the public. So it was never going to be a situation where I was on a job and I wasn't interested in helping someone. Like, it was never going to be like that. I loved the job. Every time the system went off, I don't give a shit about my phone, chop my phone. I don't care about the business. I want to help. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want to do. I want to get my kit on. I want to go into a burning building all day long. Still to this day, do you know what I mean? Like, I'd take that over anything. Like, it's the best thing ever. But it was just so far and few between that was occurring that, like, because like the fire service, it's busy enough, but it's not. It goes through phases basically. But sometimes you'll go like 6 months without doing anything of any sort of like. Yeah, at certain stations. So I'm not saying the whole fire service, like the whole of Lancs they'll do some very good work every single day. Yeah, make no mistake. But in terms of like an individual firefighter at an individual station, you might, on your watch as well, because there's 4 watches at like, you know, 2 pump station, 2 pump whole time, 224 station. There's 2 pumps, 4 watches of like, you know, 4 times 12 people or more. So the chances of like you getting a really meaningful job every week, do you know what I mean? That's just not going to happen. Like, sometimes some people go their whole careers, mate. There was definitely people in that job that had gone their whole careers without ever going into a burning building and pulling someone out. Like, not everyone will ever get to do that. Like, that's not something that everyone will get to do. So when you do get to do it, it's like gold dust, and it feels like you're really doing the job that you were meant to be doing as a firefighter. And like I say, to sort of draw it back to the business side of things, like, I was getting into situations where on station, I was just ending up in arguments all the time, and I wasn't a very nice person to be around, and I know that. And just when we talked before about people having a bad view of me, there is definitely people in that job that I think, and I hope that maybe they understood the position I was in better than I did myself, because a lot of them were older than me at the time. And they probably look back and think, well, yeah, I know that you were acting like that because you were too stressed and because you're doing this and because you're doing that. But like, that isn't a time that I'm proud of. Like, I'm not 100%, wouldn't do any different because I didn't know how to do it different. So I didn't have the tools to do it any different. If I was there now, yeah, I'd do it different, but I wouldn't be doing that. Do you know what I mean? I'd be doing what I'm doing now. So, but like I say, when I look back, I'm definitely not proud of the way that I acted in some of them situations, but got to a situation where I ended up having a bit of a toe-to-toe with one of my managers that used to be one of my really good mates, over something really stupid that, like, yeah, again, I won't tell that story, but it was basically to do with emptying a bin, right? And I didn't want to empty the bin, right? And I said, I'm not emptying the bin. And then, yeah, me and him just sort of went at it a little bit. And then that turned into a situation that, you know, over something so stupid. And then that pissed me off even more that it was so stupid. Like, mate, if I don't want to empty that bin, leave me alone. I don't want you to tell me. Like, yeah. I said I was going to go into it, but it's so hard not to. But like, that situation in itself just like showcased to me when I'm having arguments, expending that much energy with that, when I'm trying to build something, I can't be doing that. I can't let this energy out like here and then be going home and then trying to build a business. It's just not working. And it was affecting my home life with Callum. Not negatively, because she's been a business owner since she was very young, and she's always encouraged it and knew that it was going to be hard. But it wasn't fair, and I knew it wasn't fair. And anyway, that situation happened, and then we ended up like the next day stood on parade, and we've got dragged into the office. And I've gone into the office with the lad that was the manager, and then my like actual manager, well, my watch manager, who again, like, brilliant bloke, and I can only applaud him in retrospect for how he dealt with me at the time, because he was absolutely mint, mate. And it was actually, he used to be a really handy MMA fighter. And the fact they didn't fill me in, like, it's insane. Like, if I was him, I would have knocked me out like multiple times. So the fact that he didn't shows that, yeah, he was a very good bloke, to be fair. So anyway, they're both going on about how they can fix it and how they can, you know, what's going on with you, Cal? Like, how have you turned into this bloke now? Because this is not you, and, you know, whatever. And I was sat there, I'm thinking, yeah, I agree with you, but I'm not going to be changing. Like, I knew I wasn't going to change. I knew what my priorities were, and I thought, I need to leave, don't I? Like, I don't even want to. I was still too scared. Didn't want to give up on my dream job because it felt like it was this like phase of my life that was like shedding. Do you know what I mean? I thought, like, this has been everything for the last like 4 or 5 years. I can't believe I'm actually but it felt so wrong that I was sat there being disciplined in a job that I always said that I would be like the best ever at. Like, how am I sat here getting disciplined? Do you know what I mean? I'm meant to be good. Like, what, this is not, I felt like I was in school again and I didn't care about something. I thought, I do care about this. Like, this isn't right. And because it all didn't go together, I remember just going, right, do you know what? It doesn't matter. Stop both your efforts. I'll leave. I'm leaving. I'll take myself out of the equation. And they're both like, what? Like, no, it's not, we weren't trying to get at that. And I was like, no, but I do need to leave. I need to. Like, this decision has been going on for too long now, and it's being made for me because I should not be sat here right now. This is, I feel wrong. I feel naughty. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm in a bad situation. I feel guilty for where I am, and I hate feeling like that. It just felt so wrong to me. So I was like, yeah, do you know what? This whole thing right now needs to stop. So I said, yeah, I'll leave. And then I said, just bear with me. Give me like, I promise you, I'll be as good as I possibly can. I'll start following the rules a little bit more again and stop being an absolute prick just for the sake of it. Because it became a situation where it then just became man on man. And it was like, you're telling me to do this, I'm just going to do the opposite. Fuck you. I don't care. And it was so, like I say, immature is the best word for it, mate. It was just knee-jerk reactions to like such stupid little things. Like, I don't want you to wear them dress shoes. I want you to wear your boots. Nah, I'm wearing my dress shoes. And I used to say it like that, do you know what I mean? And then expect a bad outcome from it. But just like, if I got away with it, then I'd see what else I could push. And it's like, mate, I used to see people, I've been on teams where I've seen people act like me and think, you dickhead. And I'd be the one calling them out, do you know what I mean? And how have I become this person now? Like, and again, it was probably just all like just a boiling pot of emotion where I know how busy I am with the business. It was like it became my vice to go to work and be a prick. That was like the thing that I was doing. And yeah, like I say, didn't like myself for it. Still don't like myself for that behavior. I said, I'll start being good again. I'll start doing what you need me to do. I'll be fully respectful. I'll empty the bins. I'll do whatever you need me to. I'll wash the fire engines. Just leave me alone for a little bit, though. Let me figure everything out so that I can get it to a position where I'm good to go. And then I'll go. And then I think like 2 months later, I left. I remember I go to a place called La Caleta in Tenerife with Cam. And we've been a good few times now. And it's like some of the best riding that I like to do because it's like there's a climb over there called El Tide or El Tide, however you want to say it. And it's a 47-kilometer continuous climb. I remember riding my bike up this hill and I got to the top of the hill and it's like, I'll show you a picture of it later, mate, but it's literally like you're above the clouds because it's 2,400 meters above sea level, right? So when you get up to the top, it's a volcano. So El Tide is a volcano. So you've got the volcano on your right-hand side and you look to the left and you're above the cloud layer, right? So you're sat on a road that's this perfect tarmac and then just cloud everywhere and blue skies. So I've sat up there and I'm riding my bike and there's this long straight section before you descend back down into town. And the descent is wild. And so because the descent is so long, it's 47 kilometers of downhill. Like I'm not going to be thinking about anything other than how to handle my bike. You have a bit of a pause at the top where you've got a bit of time to think. And I remember being up there and I looked out into the clouds and I thought, I'm leaving work, man. Like I'm leaving work. And this was probably about a month after I've had this conversation with the guys, because I've left that conversation and I'd said it, and I don't often say things that I won't then do, even if it ruins me. If I've said it, I've got to do it, and that's the way that I've always sort of acted. And I got to, but I still didn't want to leave though. I still couldn't actually fathom. I knew I'd said it, but I thought I still just can't do this. And I remember being up this hill in Tenerife and looking over the clouds and thinking, yeah, this is the end of it all. It definitely is. Like I know that I've got no option and I do need to leave, but also I feel at peace with that. I do actually need to, make this work. And I also thought this could be a random Wednesday. It doesn't matter because my missus has her own business. if I then have my own business and I don't have anywhere to be, I don't have a workplace, nothing, I could be here if I wanted for 3 weeks at a time. And I thought, and that is a reality that I want to explore. I just want to try it. And maybe I won't get to do that, but I just want to try it. And anyway, I came back down. And I told Cam that I'd said what I'd said, but she didn't believe me because she hears me say loads of stupid shit. And okay, you're leaving, are you? You've said that about 1 million times. Like, the amount of times I'd come home from work in a bad mood and go, I'm leaving. That's it, I'm done, never going back. And then I'd obviously go back. And so I wrote, there's this terrace at this hotel that we stay at called Mind in a Decky. And we're sat on this terrace, we're having a drink, and I've had a beer. And I went, I'm leaving work, me. I'm leaving work. She's like, oh, yeah. Like, not taking me on at all. I was like, no, I promise you I'm leaving work. She was like, Cam, I don't want to talk about work. I was like, all right. So I ignored it, right? I just thought, right, fine, we won't talk about it then. So we talked about something else. And then literally the day that I got back, got this piece of paper out, started writing this piece of paper out, which is my notice. And she's come downstairs. She's like, what are you doing? I'm writing my notice. I'm going in. I'm handing it in now. Like, I was on annual leave, so I could just nip down to the station and just hand it in. She's like, oh yeah, are you doing that? Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. She's like, oh my God. Couldn't believe that I was actually doing it. And then that like shit me up a bit more. Because I thought, oh my God, like if she's scared, yeah, I'm scared now. I wasn't scared. I'd made my mind up. So anyway, I'm like, yeah, written it out, folded it up, put it in an envelope. And again, like I've got a picture of it on my phone, like sat in my passenger seat, and I've gone down to the station and I've gone in. And obviously it was my watch on, and I've gone around everyone, and everyone's looking at me like, what are you doing here? Why are you in? Like, because I do not go in on my days off. Some people do you know what I mean? But it wasn't me. Like, I didn't even want to be there when I was on, do you know what I mean? Never mind when on my days off. So like, why are you in here? So then like, I was sat having a brew with them upstairs, and I'd already handed my notice in downstairs to the watch manager. And I was having a brew with them upstairs, and I remember like I thought there's going to be a good time to tell them, but like I don't know when it is. And then like someone was just having a random conversation. I went, right, anyway, I'm leaving. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm gone. I've just handed my notice in. They were like, you've not. And then yeah, that was the end of it. Then I've never looked back since. The business at the time. So like from where that was then, so it was 35 athletes and just me coaching. And then that was in May 2024. So we're in like June, we're still in June, aren't we, of 2026. So just over 2 years later. And we've gone from 35 athletes to around 235 that, like paying monthly subscription to Peak. And then 10 coaches in total. And we like at the time, I think maybe we were coaching all like a local cohort. So from like Blackburn with Darwin, really, there was a few maybe that were elsewhere, but majority of them were from around there. And now like I'm not saying it to be big headed, and I should know as a business owner, but I've lost count of the countries that we're in. Like we're in all sorts of different countries. And
what is this coaching? What are you coaching when you do?
So it's endurance sports in general. So it's triathlon and running is the main thing really. But it's more so just like it's one-to-one physical performance coaching that usually is to do with running specifically or triathlon specifically, or usually a bit of both or something like that. We do dip our toes into other little bits of coaching as well if someone requests something that we know we're confident at doing, and it's usually someone that we've worked with before. We'll do other bits of things, but yeah, the majority of what we do is one-to-one remote triathlon and endurance coaching. So yeah, that's sort of where we've ended up now, and that's what we're doing today. Like it's still, now it's just become a daily target to grow the business, to operate, to continue to develop and push and innovate and do everything that we need to do to keep on top of it all. I'd say that I'm like I'm sort of moving towards a level where I don't feel as much of an imposter syndrome with it, but I definitely do still feel that. Like I still feel like I'm in a position where I just don't. Conversations and decisions and like businesses and are coming across my desk, and I'm thinking, I don't know how to deal with this. What the hell? Like, how's this happened? Do you know what I mean? But it's like that. It's that I'm now in a position where like I've never been in a position before where I don't describe myself as a business owner. I don't describe myself as an endurance athlete. I don't describe myself as anything other than just Cal. I'm just Cal, right? And that sort of identity development or change or progression has been the thing that has been the most powerful in the business, because I've understood that like none of the things that I ever did were ever attached to me. Nothing. Like there was good and bad in everything that I ever did, and none of it is something that I attach to me as an individual. Like I'm Callum, I did this, or I'm the guy who did this, or it's just I'm just a dude on the planet, and I tried a few things, and I'm trying this now. And do I think this will be what I do forever? I have no idea. Maybe not. Do you know what I mean? Right now, yeah, it feels like I will, but then I can't see past tomorrow. You know what I mean? I used to be obsessed with what am I doing in 5 years? If I can't see myself doing this in 5 years, I'm not doing it today. That's how I used to think. And now I'm so the opposite of that. I'm just open to anything. I think that I'm doing what I'm doing now, and that makes some money. And it gives me a certain lifestyle that I really like, and I'm flexible, and I don't have a boss, and I like being a leader. I like being in charge of my team, and the different challenges that come with that. And yeah, just like dealing with people on a daily basis. Sometimes it's the worst thing in the world, and sometimes it's the best. You know what I mean? And there's so much challenge and just variation in it.
It does sound like, though, from everything you told me, that your life has been, this has been the ultimate goal. And, you know, you've had these little goals all the way along, but this is your ultimate goal. From the outside looking in, you said before that you always thought, you know, every man wants his own business. And you've obviously got a real passion for like sports and endurance, and to then work for yourself and do that and help other people. You know, it's all the jobs you've done before, it's all merged into this.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And like I say, this is why I say that everything that I did, I wouldn't be in the position I am now, doing what I'm doing now, at the age that I am. Like, Cam's expecting a baby in October.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thanks, mate. And like, we've always known that was going to be on the cards. But again, both of us were very, I don't want to say spiritual, but we like to let things. I'm a control freak in some instances, but I know there's one thing that I can't control, and that's my fate. And I don't try to. I do what I can, and I control what I can in the now. But I know that it's written in the stars. I know that like it is for all of us. Do you know what I mean? It just is. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I can only control my sort of like micro decisions in that macro cycle, and or that macro outlook rather. And where I look now, and I think, right, so I'm in a position where we'll very, very likely homeschool our kid, because both of us can be at home. And Cam does a lot of work for me now. And that, you know, the business helps sustain both of our lifestyles. And when I say lifestyle, I don't mean flashy lifestyles. I just mean a lifestyle, like being able to, you know, live at home and work with each other, and, you know, like the things that we like to do as Cam and Cal, we can help. Sorry, the business helps facilitate that. And like I say, when I move forward and we do have the baby, and I can end up in a situation where hopefully, you know, touch wood, things maintain the way that they are now, and I'm in control of that, and I can be in control of my kid's life more than I would be if I was to, you know, because I've always struggled with that. I've always struggled in the past with, and I don't know the right or wrong answer with it, but Cam and I both have always struggled with the idea of giving our kid to someone else to teach them, because Cam and I were both very similar in, Cam was a better student than me, but she was also a bit hard work the way that I was on another level. And like I said before, school's a good thing. If you get the right schools, 100%, like there's no detriment to it whatsoever. But finding the right schools and and like, you don't choose who your teacher is of your kid, you know what I mean? You can choose the school, but then they might end up getting taught by an absolute melt, you know what I mean? And you just think, I don't want that to happen. And like I say, touch wood, I'm only in this position now. In 2 years' time, the business might fail and everything goes to shit, and then I can't do that, do you know what I mean? And I do have to let someone else teach my kid, and I'll control that the best way that I know how to at the time. But my point here is that, like you've just said, everything has formulated to be where we are now, in a position that all makes sense. Like, everything makes sense to me now. My life makes sense more than it did, you know, however many years ago. Literally 2 years ago, I was still confused. And it felt like I'd been confused since a very young age, because I'd always tried to forecast. I'd always tried to figure out what the next step was, what I was doing. And I never seemed to get it right. Every time I tried it, it'd, like, you know, not really amount to much. And then it seemed like it did amount to what I wanted it to amount to with the fire service. And then that started to go to pot. And I thought, oh my God, what if this business doesn't work out? What if I get into the business and stuff starts to piss me off too much? And do you know what I think it is? Do you know, I honestly think the key is that in a job, there's other jobs, right? There's other things that you can do. You can go and get a different job. It might not be as good as your job now, but if your job starts pissing you off as much, you convince yourself that anything to be better than that job. So you can always leave. And I saw my dad do it, like I referenced before, however many times, just left and got a different job. So when you're in the job market, that's one thing, because basically every job's going to be similar. Yeah, you're going to work a similar amount of hours, like, whether that's split amongst different shifts or whatever. You're going to have a boss, you're going to have a line manager, you're going to have colleagues, you're going to have expectations, contracts, annual leave, you're going to have to fight for your annual, whatever, right? It's all the same. So really, it's all a bit of a variation of nothing, because, yeah, you're just going to end up having to do the same shit in every single job, apart from like your duties might change a little bit, but the sort of lifestyle of the whole thing is how it is. With a business, you get access to this amazing situation where you can choose to do whatever you want on a daily basis. You can change up your daily schedule if you want to. You can mess things around. You can make mistakes and you just fix them, and it's on you to fix them. And like everything is just like the best thing ever, but it's underpinned by this thing that if I don't make this work, then there is no other business. There is no, I could go and start a different business, but I don't know how long it's going to take for it to make it self-sustainable. Like where I'm at now, I've put however many years of work in to make it where it is now. I know how hard that has been. I know how much emotion's gone into it, like how much development and just turmoil has gone into making it into what it is now. So the thought of giving up on it or going, do you know what, sack this, I'm just going to fall out with everyone and go and get a different job, like it's inconceivable, because I can't do that. Like I've got the bet, I'm sitting with gold in my hand. If I fumble it, then it's on me. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm just going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that it sustains. And it then turns into like a constant daily fight, like a dog fight to keep yourself in the business, than someone else fighting you to be in their business and you going, I don't want to be, and then having to get brought back into it with incentives and motivation and leadership and development and whatever. When it's on you, and it has to be on you, there becomes like this unwritten rule. There's just no choice. You just have to keep doing it. And I think that's the best thing for me. It's not that I'm the best business person in the world. I'm categorically not. It's not that I'm the best coach in the world. I like to think I am, but I know that I'm not. I know there's other people out there that are just as good as me, or better. But the thing that keeps me in it isn't the fact that, I think I'm the best at it. It's the fact that it's an inconceivable idea to me that I give up on it, and that, I would be happy with the legacy of, right, well, I gave up on it. You know what I mean? I just have to keep it going, and I have to keep self-sustaining it.
Do you know what, though? Like we talked about everything in your career. You've always had that option to go, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to go. You haven't really got that option now, like you're saying. So it is the right thing for you,
The only thing that would probably make me change my mind would be if it started acting in a negative way, so it didn't complement my life, it started like detracting from my life, but then I would just change it. Like whatever the putty is in my hands, I'd just change it. I'd get rid of a few athletes, I'd get rid of a few coaches, whatever. Like I'd make it, that sounds dismissive, obviously, I don't mean get rid of, but like I would make a situation for myself better where, no, I know what my boundary is. This is too much. It's taken over my life a little bit too much. I need to take a step back. And you find that out sometimes. You take a step forward and you think, oh, wow, too much stress this. Like this is now like becoming, excuse me, a point of time a while ago where I was on my phone like 24/7 and I couldn't stop. And there was constantly things coming across my desk that, figuratively, I don't even have a desk, but like coming across my desk that were just too much to deal with. And I thought like, oh my God, this is just, it's become a situation now where I'm resenting it. I'm resenting the business. And it wasn't resenting what I do. I've never resented what I do. I fucking love it. Like what I do as a business, it feels like it's just free work to me. It's not work. It's not work. It's that old cliche of like, if you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it is true, because if you do genuinely love it, and I didn't even know I loved coaching. I know I loved endurance, and I know I loved the sport, and I know I loved the progression of myself, but I didn't know if I loved doing it with other people until I started doing it. And then I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like I could feel it in me that it was just the best thing ever. And I thought like, and like that progression. So recently it's turned a lot more into like I say, I'm not a business mogul. I'm not someone who has their life completely sorted out. I'm not someone who professes to have all the answers at all. But I also understand that I can identify when someone else is in a position that I might have been in at one point. And a lot more recently, probably because it comes across like I've maybe developed myself into someone who does have more answers. Not that I do, but that, I might be further along the path than some people. Like a lot of my friends or, people that I've known for years have started asking me for advice on how they can help, potentially better their own lives and what they can do with their own lives. And like I said, I don't have the answer for them, but I can teach them the things that I have learned across, the path and to not have any regrets and to lean into your strengths and whatever else. And as I'm doing that, I'm noticing that it's not just the development of someone through like endurance that is the best thing that I like to do or makes me happy. It's just the development of people. If I see someone who wants to get better and they ask me how to do that and I tell them to the best of my knowledge how to do that and they take it and they run with it and something good comes of it, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. Like we deep so much shit, man, and like we're just people with made up duties, made up jobs, made up things that we all choose to do. The one thing, or the couple of things that aren't made up is like family and love. And them two things, they come in the form of partners, in the form of children, friendships to some respect as well. If you're lucky enough to have those friendships, but like that's the only shit that is real. That is the only reality of the world that we live in. But then we create these like obscene, like giants of shit that we all think, like jobs and careers and like athletic pursuits and whatever, that we all think are the most dramatic things in the world. It's all borrowed, man. Like everything's borrowed. Like we all know this, but it is like everything that you own is borrowed. The one thing that isn't borrowed is the legacy that you leave and the things that you instill in other people. So the fact that, like I hope that the sort of the impacts that I have on the individuals that I coach and that all of my coaches have on the individuals that they coach, and they coach them to things that they never thought they'd be capable of doing. We're going to Sweden in like 6 weeks' time. We've got like maybe 5 or 6 people doing their first Ironman ever. Like they've never thought they'd be able to do an Ironman, and now we've coached them towards it, and touch wood, hopefully everything goes smoothly and they achieve that. And like forever they will remember Peak and the coach that they had. And that's not an egotistical thing like, oh, I want them to have my name in their head. No, it's just that if that's my job that gets to facilitate that, how good is that? Do you know what I mean? How good is that you get to leave something that is more than monetary or more than like what's that word, materialistic? Like it's not something that you've given to someone or a letter that they've got to remember. Like it's something that's etched in their minds forever. They'll tell stories about that forever. That experience is just amazing. And like if it's hard to lose sight as a coach because you know how weighted everything is like that. But if you do ever lose sight, it's only ever for a second, because then you remember all that I've just said and you think, nah, fucking hell, I've got to keep going. Do you know what I mean? Like this is the best thing ever. What could it possibly top this? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And not everyone will think like that. It's just because I love the game. Do you know what I mean? Like not everyone thinks like that. Not even coaches that are in the game and have been in the game for however long think the same way. It's just, for some people, it's a means of making a little bit of extra money. It's a means of helping someone that they know because they're good at it and they want to be as good as them. And like, what coaching is like yourself in jiu-jitsu. And like, not everyone's doing it because of like a deep, deep love for it. But I am. I genuinely am. I can't get enough of it. I don't, this is what I mean. I don't think I will ever rid of that from myself because I love it. I love it to bits. It's just the best thing ever.
That's proof of how passionate we're about.
Yeah.
It really is. We'll start wrapping up now, but plug your business. So tell us about Peak Performance. What kind of people are you looking to coach? Where can people find you?
So Instagram is our main level of marketing, really. We put videos out on there all the time of the sort of journeys that people have been on and the things that they've accomplished. We've got, like I referenced before, we've got about 10 coaches and in and around sort of 230 athletes. The way that the company works is we're very, very community led. So whilst the coaching is one-to-one and it's all done by an app called Training Peaks that is like an endurance led software. We get metrics from people's watches, if you wear a Garmin or an Apple Watch or whatever, it gets fed through to Training Peaks, and then we get the metrics from our side from a different perspective, almost like a macro outlook. we take a look at that and then we forecast the trainings the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, etc., in the lead up to a goal or something like that. And then obviously, 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, you'll PB or get results from the coaching that you've done with us. The way that we tend to do it in coaching is different to the way that personal trainers do it, or the way that some coaching companies do it, where it's like you'll be with someone for a 12-week block. What we call our service is holistic coaching, and it's a subscription like a gym membership. Yeah, so we're constantly on hand. The way that it came about and what I wanted, the vision for it initially, was I wanted an athlete to come to us and say, listen, I want to do this. I've got all this ambition that I want to play somewhere, but I don't know. I need someone to teach me the ropes. I don't know where I'm meant to be, what I'm meant to do, what kit I'm meant to buy, what race I'm meant to be at. How do I figure out what I'm doing into the race? And what we've developed is a system that gets fed down through me into the other coaches, and then from the coaches into their athletes, where if someone's turning up to a race and they've done the preparation through peak, they turn up with no questions unanswered. They turn up knowing exactly what they're doing, exactly what heart rate they're racing to, exactly what nutrition they're taking on, what they're doing with the transition bags, or in a running race, like how many gels they're going to take and what shoes they're wearing and where they need to park. Yeah, like we'll take literally every single thing that we can and dumb it down into the simplest of steps, so that you genuinely turn up and go, I don't need to think about anything. We don't want any athlete to think about anything other than just being an athlete. Just perform. That's all we want you to do. Let us take care of the rest of it. And when people, so we charge £105 a month for running and £125 a month for triathlon. And sometimes people are, oh, bloody hell. Not often to be fair, but sometimes like, wow, that's expensive. When you break down how much communication we will have with one athlete, it's way less than minimum wage, like way, way less, right? The only way that it's feasible is because you coach multiple athletes, not just one. But the way that we want it to feel, and sometimes we might not get it exactly right, but 99 times out of 100 or 99% of the time, we will definitely try and make it that the A goal or the A1 standard that we're after as a coaching service is that athlete should feel like we are your absolute only coach. That's it. We only coach you as an athlete. You can talk to us whenever, we respond whenever. Everything is just geared towards you. That's the way that I want everyone to feel. Not that you're just part of some big thing. I want you to feel like you're part of a big thing from a community side of things and have access to everything that we've got from a community side of things. But really, the main effort from us is making sure that people that want to do something in endurance sports come to us and feel like they've got someone on their shoulder 24/7, teaching them where to go and what to do, and every question, like I say, goes answered. And yeah, they've got everything at their disposal to perform properly.
Of course. So what's your Instagram handle? I'll link it all in the bio anyway.
Yeah, Instagram is Peak Performance Endurance. Literally just that. And then we've got a website, which is just peakperformanceendurance.co.uk. But they're the only two sort of like, we market through social media, i.e. Instagram. That's it. We've got a TikTok as well that my wife does, but like, again, it's not our main sort of source of, the main way we do like networking, communication, everything's through Instagram. And then the business is the more official side of things, where you can take a look at what we do properly, take a look at all the coaches, the services, what we provide, and then actually inquire and send an inquiry, book a call. And yeah, we literally like my basically full-time job now, I still coach. I don't want to stop coaching. I'm 27. I love it. So I definitely don't want to stop doing it. But the sort of other side of what I do is literally just taking the calls. I'm the one who will, if anyone was to inquire, it's me that you speak to. And I explain, because again, control freak, I can't let that out into anybody else. Like, I want to explain our service and make sure it comes across the right way. Now and again, don't get me wrong, I've got coaches I can rely on to take a call if I can't do it for whatever reason, but I will always try and make sure that it's me that takes the call, just so that the person on the other side gets the full breakdown of what we do. And then they've also got a cool thing about it is they've got me to come back to. So if something's gone wrong with their coach, they just come to me and go, Cal, I'm not really happy with this, and I can go, right, sound, I'll fix it. Do you know what I mean? And rather than if it was just an individual coach, sometimes you might not tell that coach that something's gone wrong. You just go, I'm leaving. You know what I mean? And they don't get an opportunity to fix what they're doing. So yeah, that's the business really in a nutshell and what we do.
So, last question from me. If coaching didn't exist, the fire service didn't exist, everything you've ever done before, so Marines, working with special needs, everything, none of that exists, and you were 16 years old leaving school again, what would you want to do? What are you going to do?
I thought about this question before, and genuinely, it'd be like I kept referencing throughout the conversation. I honestly can't see my life panning out in any other way. So it'd be like disingenuous of me to say that I would prefer to do something else, that I would do something differently. I wouldn't. I think the only other thing that I can think of doing is something. It's gonna sound really weird, but being like a deep sea fisherman or something like that, like just something properly, just detached from everything and a completely different world to what I am used to. Do you know what I mean? I'd want to do something that gives me a different an even more different perspective than what I've got already on my life. Something like that, or I say this, the reason I say that it's like I say I would have or could have or should have done this. I will very likely probably go and do deep sea fishing, you know what I mean, at some point, just so I know, because if I think of something like that, I think, well, I want to go and try it, you know what I mean? The other thing that I have constant thoughts of, and I don't know how I would make this work, and probably when I've got a kid and whatever, I will never do it, but I'd love to go and live in a monastery. Is it a monastery? I want to go like go and be a monk for a bit. Do you know what I mean? And experience that side of things. And I've got a mate in Australia, came back from my wedding, and he went on a very big spiritual path of finding himself and going through loads of different ayahuasca trips and things like that. And one of the things that he did was he went to, is it a monastery? Am I saying the right word?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I know what you mean.
I feel like it's right, but when I'm saying it doesn't sound right. But yeah, he went to a temple of some sort, right? And he did, I'm sure it was a 12-hour meditation. It was 7 days. No, it was 7 days of not speaking. So he did 7 days of not speaking. And in that time, I think he fasted from like 6 a.m. till, I don't know, 6 p.m. or something like that. And throughout that time, so the 12-hour period throughout the day, you had to meditate. So you sit there and meditate. You were allowed small breaks where they would like tap you and you'd get up and stand up and shake off and stuff. And you go sit down and meditate again. So it was for a 7-day period. He wasn't eating a lot at all. And then, like I say, he didn't speak for 7 days, he didn't utter a word for 7 days. Even when you went back to your own room, obviously that you could do if you wanted to, but the whole point is that like you don't. And stuff like that is something that I haven't explored enough of. I think I will at some point in my life. You know, maybe later on in my years when I don't know, got a bit more, if I sell a business or something and then I've got loads of money and just time to do nothing, then I would probably go and do something like that. So yeah, being either a deep sea fisherman, again, that probably pays into a little bit of that, because I think if you're out there on your own and, you know, not on your own, but with a small crew and you're shit scared of the waves and, you know, everything is just dark and dreary and horrible and freaky, the way that your mind would start to think would excite me. Yeah. The same way that like endurance sports does when you're doing ultra endurance stuff. And then the same thing with the fasting and the not speaking and meditation and stuff like that. Again, just, I love exploring the mind and how that's what got me into endurance in a way. You know, from just the performance side of things initially, developing into longer endurance stuff was because the further you go, the more it tests your mind and the more you have to go to war with your mind. It's become a cliche these days, going to war with your mind, but you know, when you do it properly, endurance sports, you genuinely do it. And every time you do it, you're seeing how much further you can push that. And yeah, anything basically that would push me further in that direction, I would do. So yeah, that's my answer.
I love that answer. I've never heard anybody say they want to be a deep sea fisherman before.
I don't even know where that came from, mate, to be fair.
Thanks for doing this, mate. It's been really good. Good luck with your kid coming up. And good luck with the business in the future as well.
Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks for watching or listening if you're on the audio. Same as usual, please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and hopefully see you in the next one.